My entitled crazy sister-in-law quite literally moved into our house while we were on our honeymoon, as she claimed that she could move in because we weren't using our guest bedroom at all, putting me in a situation where I honestly did not know what to do. Here's how it all went down. Okay, so this happened a few months ago and I'm still trying to wrap my head around it. My husband and I had just gotten married and went away for a 1-week honeymoon. Everything was perfect, we had a beach, some good food, and more importantly, we had some peace and quiet. Well, that is until we got back home. As we pulled into the driveway, we noticed my sister-in-law's car was parked there. We thought, okay, maybe she's dropping off a remaining wedding gift that she couldn't get to us on the day of the wedding. I mean, my husband had actually given her our house key so she could drop it off while we were gone. But no, she didn't come to drop anything off. She literally moved in. We opened the door and I swear it felt like walking into a parallel universe. Her shoes were by the door, her clothing was in the guest room closet, makeup was all over the bathroom counter, and half of our food was gone. She even set up her laptop on the dining table like it was her new office. When I asked what she was doing, she looked completely casual and said, "Oh, I just moved into the guest room temporarily, since, you know, you guys weren't using it anyways." And I'm just like, excuse me? You didn't know we were using it? The guest room is our space. Who even told you that you can move in here? She then just blinked at me like I was the one being dramatic. She then said that she didn't feel safe living with her roommate anymore, so she thought she could stay in our guest bedroom since we don't use it. And it's like, girl, we were gone for a week, not forever. The craziest part about this is that she changed our Wi-Fi password and told the neighbors that she was house sitting for us. Like, I can't even make this up. When my husband told her that she needed to leave, she burst into tears trying to guilt trip us, saying that we were being too harsh on her. We then ended up helping her pack her stuff that same evening, and the first thing the next morning, we changed every single lock of the house. Well, fast forward to my mother-in-law's birthday party last week, and she was acting cold and distant as if we were the ones that wronged her. But I'm honestly still blown away by the audacity of this woman for moving in while we were on our honeymoon. Oh my gosh, I cannot understand how people act like this. Like, thankfully there's no backlash from the family from this, because this is just like the classic case of idiot family member thinking they can do whatever they want. And it's always the in-laws of like a spouse of some kind who quite literally overstep into your life and try to act like they run things. And it's like, dude, take a hike, you can't be here. So yeah, this is probably one of the craziest situations I've ever heard, and I'm so glad that you guys kicked her out and told her to take a hike, because this behavior, in my opinion, is super weird. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My ex cheated, lied, and got engaged 3 weeks after our breakup, and I'm now trying to understand why someone would do that to me, because right now I don't know what to do. Here's how it all went down. To start things out, I'm a 25-year-old female and I was with my ex-boyfriend for over 4 years. We met during the pandemic and built what I thought was a deep, committed relationship. He told me that I was his soulmate, that he wanted to marry me, and we even talked about our future together. I introduced him to my parents, which was a huge deal culturally for me, and I had a lot of fights with them, trying to fight for my relationship with him and for their acceptance. Throughout our relationship, there was always an issue with his girl best friend. They were emotionally close in a way that made me uncomfortable for years. They texted constantly, shared personal things, and had an intimacy that blurred lines. Whenever I expressed discomfort, he would reassure me that it was platonic, or promise to create boundaries, but he never really did. Last December, 2 months before our 4-year anniversary, something happened that broke my trust completely. He got drunk at his work Christmas party and confessed that he had done something inappropriate. Apparently, he had texted his girl best friend saying, "I love you and I want to be with you," while he was drunk. He said that he didn't remember much and that he didn't have feelings for her, and that all of this was a complete mistake. And when I heard this, I was devastated. But he begged for forgiveness and said he would do anything to fix it. He told me he would cut her off completely, and I decided to give him one last chance. From January to April, things seemed to be getting better slowly. He was attentive, saying all the right things, and trying to rebuild what we lost. But in April, while I was back home for 3 weeks for a family emergency, and a week before coming back to the United Kingdom, he ended things with me over a phone call. He was vague about the reasons why he wanted to break up, but I accepted it and I agreed to break up with him. Well, the day after he broke up with me, he called asking if we could try couples therapy and see if we could work things out, and I was really confused but kind of hopeful. But then he went completely silent and I heard nothing. 2 months after the breakup, I hear from mutual friends that he had actually cheated on me again in April when I was away for those 3 weeks, but this time with his coworker, who's someone he directly manages at work. This coworker has also in the past hooked up with his brother earlier this year. I found out later through mutual friends that they had slept together while I was gone, and that he started seeing her immediately afterwards. Within 3 weeks of ending things with me, he got engaged to the girl that he cheated on me with. And this was the same man who used to tell me that I was the love of his life, who cried at the thought of losing me, who said he wanted to build a life with me. But after all that, he ended up getting married to her back in August. It's been 6 months now and I've healed a lot, and I don't want anything to do with that man anymore, but I'm curious and I'm trying to make sense of his behavior. How do you go from calling someone your soulmate and begging for another chance to then getting engaged to someone new in just 3 weeks? Was our entire relationship a lie? Was he just emotionally weak, avoidant, guilty? Or is this a sign of something deeper like narcissism or emotional immaturity? Was he a total sociopath? Can someone who has done anything similar please reply and give me any kind of insight? Like, will he ever regret this, and does he think about me at all? I'm not looking for closure from him. I just want to understand what kind of mindset drives someone to betray, lie, and move on so fast, especially after years of shared love and plans for a future. Okay, someone in the comments said exactly what I was thinking, and I just want to repeat that. This guy is shallow and he's a piece of garbage. He would much rather throw your relationship away than actually follow through with it, and would rather cheat on you than actually build a relationship. Like, if you think for a second his new marriage is going to work out, you're insane. Because I really do believe that once a cheater, always a cheater. And if he cheated on you after that long of being together, then you can bet he'll probably do the same thing to this new lady. And that is definitely not fair at all. So I think the biggest takeaway I would have is that, yeah, this guy's a piece of garbage and he's getting exactly what he deserves. Because this lady was a willing accomplice, and I'm not convinced that this relationship is gonna last because these people do not sound like good people in the slightest. Am I overreacting after I found out that my entire family ate my birthday cake without my permission and before I could even have a slice of my own? Because at this point, I'm still incredibly upset and I don't know if I'm in the wrong. Here's what's going on. Okay, to start things out, last night my entire extended family was over for a family reunion, and my mom brought a cake to celebrate my birthday along with the reunion since it's all kind of close by. My cake wasn't the only dessert there. There were 2 other cakes specifically for the reunion itself, and there were cookies and a bunch of other stuff people could have had. It was a large cake and everyone who wanted one had a slice, and maybe about half of it was left, and I really was okay with them having some as well. My mom then says in front of everyone, "I'll save this for your actual birthday so you can bring it to your girlfriend's house." Well, I wake up this morning and the entire cake has been eaten. Not just by my drunk uncles who my dad allowed to eat while I was asleep, but also by my little brother, who by the way I've had several talks with about not eating my food, who decided to have the last slice left this morning. Like, that slice was gonna be my breakfast. I was going to bring that to my girlfriend's house for my actual birthday. Well, when I saw this, I immediately got upset, and I asked my mom why anyone was allowed to eat it. My mom then got mad at me for being upset because she said she would just buy me a single-serve cake from the same place, but in my opinion, that doesn't change the fact that it happened. I didn't want a single-serve cake because it just felt soured now, especially due to my actual birthday cake being eaten. I left the house sobbing because I felt like nobody in my family actually cared about me. Now, part of me feels like that wasn't that big of a deal, and I should not have gotten so upset about it, but the other part of me is still angry and feels very disrespected. So did I overreact here? Because right now I'm not sure what to do. Okay, honestly, I think it's a little bit of an overreaction, but also I can understand where you're coming from. Like, for starters, if someone's gonna say, yeah, this slice is gonna be safe for you, then guess what? It should have been put in a labeled box that says this is for the original poster, like nobody else eat it. So it's really irresponsible that your mom didn't do that and didn't, like, I don't know, try to help you out in some way. But also, I think your mom does have a point. Like, it is just a cake, and this was during a reunion, so of course people are gonna eat stuff. But I don't think it's so deep where it's like, oh man, nobody cares about me. I'm just being written off just like always. Like, no, I don't think that's what's going on. I think that's a big overreach in my opinion. And in that respect, I do think you're kind of overreacting. So it's a little bit of both in my opinion. I think there is some wiggle room to try and make this right, because the suggestion your mom had, I think, is the best way to make this right, and at least own up to the fact that she didn't do enough to try and keep that slice for you, which in my opinion is the biggest part of this that would really upset me. Am I the jerk for refusing to cover for my coworker, who quite literally lied to our boss and ended up making me look like the one who messed up when in reality it was him? Because right now this coworker is treating me very differently and I'm not sure how to fix this. Here's what happened. Okay, so I'm a 22-year-old female and I work at a small nonprofit with about 8 staff. It's usually a good team, although everyone's pretty overworked. One coworker, who I will call James, has always had a bit of a habit of exaggerating things and taking shortcuts, but I usually just ignore it and I shrug it off. because they're friendly enough and they do get results most of the time. Anyways, James was recently in charge of finishing a big grant report that the rest of us really depended on. The deadline was tight, and the night before, they messaged me and asked me if I could quickly go over a section. I said sure, but when I checked it, a bunch of the numbers didn't line up with the previous reports. I then told James to double check the data, but he just brushed it off, saying that he would clean it up later. The next morning, our boss notices the inconsistencies and calls both of us in. Before I could even speak, James jumped in and said that I must have changed some figures when I edited their section. Basically, he threw the blame on me and I was completely stunned. I had text messages showing that I had told him about the wrong numbers, so I explained exactly that to the boss and I forwarded the exchange. The boss seemed neutral but asked James to clarify, and James awkwardly said that he misremembered, and now things are really weird. Some coworkers think I overreacted or that I should have handled it privately, while others say I did the right thing by not letting someone else pin their mistake on me. James has been avoiding me and giving me short replies in meetings, and I'm honestly not trying to start drama. I just didn't want to get blamed for something I didn't do, but part of me feels guilty that maybe I made him look worse than I needed to. So am I the jerk for refusing to take the fall and telling the boss what really happened? Because right now I don't know what to do. Oh no, you're not the jerk here. If someone has the audacity to try and make up some crap about me in public, then you have every right to shut that down in public. Like at that point, any semblance of privacy goes right out the window. Because if you're gonna lie about me in public, I will happily correct you in public as well. And I love the fact that James has no idea what he's doing. Like, I'm convinced. And the only reason he had you look at this report was because he wanted someone that he could use as a scapegoat. He wanted to drag you down with him because he knew he was screwed. And if you didn't say anything, this could have blown up in your face entirely. So no, you're definitely not the jerk for saying something and standing up for yourself, because your coworker was absolutely going to throw you under the bus whether you liked it or not. My entitled boss refused to promote me or give me any kind of reasonable raises after I had done so much for the company and made them well over $1 million. So I decided to get some revenge by literally using my company to learn skills that could get me a job elsewhere, which eventually secured me a job that made more money than my current boss, as this literally changed my life in a way that I will never forget. Here's how it all happened. Early in my career, I worked as an engineer for a defense contractor for about 4 years, getting my typical 4% raises and standard promotions that take years and years to qualify for. I realized that in my current role, I was pretty much maxed out for the foreseeable future, and I would be scraping by for years more. So I tried to get on the management track, and I got given a project engineer position to prove myself with. I managed a team of 4 engineers, a designer, and 2 administrators, and we designed and manufactured a system that made $1.6 million in sales in our first year of work. We got the company a patent, we were nominated by the United States Air Force, and became finalists in the Department of Defense Contractor Technical Team of the Year. Plus, we were flown to DC for a big award ceremony. I spent 100 days away from my family that year, traveling to test locations, customers, vendors, etc., and it was brutal, but we were wildly successful. When annual performance reviews came around, mine was absolutely off the charts. I was thrilled. But then I found out that one of my team members, who also had a different manager, was promoted early to a senior position and that I did not. And I just got the standard 3% raise again. And when I found this out, I was livid. I had a meeting with my boss, and his response was that he didn't think my team member deserved a promotion or a big raise, but he wasn't their boss, so basically I should try really hard again and we'll see next year. But I thought to myself, screw that. I basically quiet quit and just barely worked my 40 hours and then I would just go home. I never traveled unless I really wanted to, and I never stayed late. I took almost every Friday off to burn through my leave, and I took all my sick days as well. Eventually, my mental health was much better. The only thing extra that I really did was take advantage of our education budget that our group had, but rarely ever got used. Now, my previously promoted coworker, who, by the way, I really liked personally, started taking master's degree evening classes, which the company also reimbursed him for, but they also came with obligations to stay there for a certain amount of years. They also had a nice budget for software training, without any kind of stipulations, by the way, so we both signed up for some very advanced classes. We traveled around together, taking these classes and building our resumes. Well, about a month after the classes were finished, I secretly started applying for jobs that required those specific skills, and I very quickly got hired for a position with a base annual income that was quite literally 200% more than my existing rate, plus on top of that, it paid overtime. I then decided to put my notice in, and my boss was really upset. My boss looked at me and said, "We just paid for you to travel all over to learn these new skills that we need. Don't you have any loyalty or guilt?" He then had the audacity to ask me how much I'm being paid there, and then tried to see if they could match the amount. But once I said it, he literally looked at me and said, "That's more than what I make." And you know what? He was right. It was way more, including the overtime, and I made about 3 times the following year for a competitor. So needless to say, my life changed for the better in a very serious way. But it's all thanks to taking advantage of a company that never appreciated me to begin with. Yeah, this is the ultimate way of getting back at your job, especially if they undervalue your skills like this guy was experiencing. Like, he literally made this company like over $1 million. He did all this stuff, he got awards, he was flown into Washington, D.C. for crying out loud, and these people still said, "I'm sorry, but you're not really meant for senior management. Sorry about that, I guess it's not gonna happen." Like, what more could he have possibly have done to try and prove himself? Like, seriously, this is so stupid. So good for the original poster for getting revenge and getting a crazy increase in pay, because you absolutely deserve it after these people definitely took you for granted. Am I the jerk for refusing to lie to the police for my husband by claiming that I was the one that caused an accident and not him? Because after I refused, my husband freaked out on me, saying that I sold him out and that I betrayed his trust. And at this point, I'm honestly really hurt by this and I don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, so I'm a 30-year-old female and I've been married to my husband for 3 years. He's a good person most of the time, but he can be impulsive and has a habit of acting before thinking things through. Last weekend, he borrowed my car to run a quick errand. A few hours later, I got a call that he'd been in a minor accident. Thankfully, no one was seriously hurt, but my front bumper was destroyed, and the other driver's car had noticeable damage. When I got to the scene, the police were already there. It was here that my husband pulled me aside and whispered that he didn't have his driver's license on him because it had been suspended for unpaid tickets. He then begged me to tell the officers that I was the one who was driving. But I said back to him, absolutely not, I wasn't even there, and lying to the police could get me in serious trouble. He then looked panicked and said it would ruin everything for him if he got another strike. But I told him that he should have thought of that before driving on a suspended license. When I refused, he glared at me and muttered, "Unbelievable, you can't even have my back." The officer then asked who had been driving, and I told them the truth that it was my husband. He was then cited for driving with a suspended license and causing an accident. Well, ever since then, he's been furious. He says that I betrayed him and that a real partner would have protected him. In fact, his mother even called me saying that I should have just said it was me since nobody got hurt. But I really don't see how lying to the police and risking my own record was the right thing to do here. But now the whole family's acting like I sold him out, and at this point, I'm not sure if I'm the jerk, and I really just don't know what to do. Okay, your family is crazy if they think this is somehow like your responsibility. First of all, what is your husband doing driving around, dude? Like, this is not okay. He's already not paying like tickets, but now he's driving around and getting in accidents. Like, dude, you should not be behind the wheel. But I can tell you straight up, if my partner was like, "Hey, could you lie to the police for me?" I think I would lose my mind. I'd be like, "What are you talking about? Why would I risk going to jail just to lie to the police and be like, oh yeah, it was me driving, don't worry about it. My husband had nothing to do with it. It was me in the driver's seat." Like, that is so unbelievably stupid. Like, you've got to be kidding me right now. And it's also insane that he's trying to be like, "Wow, you sold me out. Being my partner means that you have to lie to the police. Come on." And I'm just kind of stunned, to be completely honest. Like, this is so stupid, it's not even funny. So no, you are definitely not the jerk. Your husband is a moron for trying to get you to do that, and the fact that anybody in the family would be upset about this is crazy in my opinion. Am I the jerk for not wanting my in-laws to stay with us more than once a month? Because as it is right now, they're over at my house way too much, and at this point, I simply can't take it any longer. Here's what's going on. Okay, to start things out, I live in a suburb of a large city. My in-laws live about 3.5 hours south in a small city, and they come up often for doctor's appointments, shopping, or just to play around. Sometimes there's a month between visits, but sometimes it's literally every single weekend. Now, I love my husband and my in-laws, but I hate feeling like our home is a hotel. Now, mind you, they can afford a hotel, but prefer to stay with us. My mother-in-law loves to cook, and I used to feel pressure to cook big meals so I wouldn't look lazy. But now I just tell my husband to suggest takeout because I'm just tired of hosting. I also compulsively clean before they come, which drives me crazy. Our house is nearly 5,000 square feet, and I deep clean everything, baseboards included, because I can't stand the thought of them seeing dirt. It is self-imposed and ironic since their house isn't spotless, but I just can't let it go. My husband helps, but he rushes, and I feel bad complaining since at least he's helping me in the first place. This constant open door policy has become a major sore spot in our marriage. Having my mother-in-law, my father-in-law, and 2 sister-in-laws stay so often makes me feel like it's not even my home anymore. For context, my parents live 20 minutes away and they visit often, but they do not stay overnight. They come for a few hours, they bring food, they help clean up, and even help with house projects. My in-laws, on the other hand, just drop their plates in the sink after dinner to help out. My husband does help me clean clean after dinner, but I always feel like the rude one for taking him away from them. He says I should be as welcoming to his family as he is to mine, but it's just not the same. My parents visit, they help, and then they leave, whereas his family stays entire weekends and adds to my workload. As a stay-at-home mom, I feel like the meals and house reflect on me, so it's extra stressful, but he insists that they don't care, but he's also their golden boy. They'd never judge him, just me. To make things worse, one sister-in-law is living with us for 5 months while she's in school. Now, I agreed to this just to be kind, even though I am a bit of an introvert, but I'm terrified the visits will become even more frequent, and my husband just can't say no. The biggest issue is that my mother-in-law can't even take a hint. Even when we're clearly burned out, or when my husband tries to subtly dodge another visit, she keeps asking until he gives in. He doesn't really want them here that often either, but he's scared of offending her. She gets her feelings hurt very easily, and instead of setting boundaries, he says yes and then leaves me to deal with the fallout. So seriously, what's the right move here? Should I ask him to limit their stay and risk offending them? I mean, he's hesitant and it's becoming a major source of tension. I think that once a month overnight visits are perfectly fair, but he says that he can't tell them that. What should I do? Okay, honestly, I really think this falls on your husband to figure out because this is his family. If it was your family doing this, you would obviously step up, but because it's his, he absolutely needs to step up and say something. Because if you do it, they're gonna go to their son and be like, oh wow, your wife is so unreasonable. And then after they guilt trip him further, guess what? He's gonna cave and it's gonna look like this is your fault. So no, you're not the jerk. This is absolutely unreasonable what they're trying to do every single weekend it feels like. And in my opinion, I think you're well within your rights to tell them that they need to chill out. My crazy entitled uncle broke into my house while I was sleeping. Also, he could steal my retro video games and video game consoles just so he can have them for himself. And as a result, I'm now in the process of getting a restraining order against my uncle so that he can never pull something like this on me ever again. Here's what happened. So to start things off, when I was younger, I was spoiled. I'm not gonna lie, I really was. I had almost every gaming console a kid could dream of. And my cousin, well, they did not. I would let them play on my consoles when they came over, but I would never let them borrow it because I was so overprotective of them, which I honestly realized was pretty dumb the older I got. Fast forward a few years, my cousin is older and has a job, so he has his own consoles and everything, but has come to collect retro consoles and games, which I had a lot of. He offers to buy some of them and I turned him down because I want to keep my memories and potentially pass them on to my kids so they can experience the games that I had. Well, this is where things kind of go south. My uncle for years basically makes it seem that my cousin is entitled to my stuff simply because of the fact that I denied him borrowing it when I was still rocking Spider-Man pajamas. And as a result, he consistently tries to pressure me into just handing them over. Late in 2022, after I moved out into my own place and have all my consoles and games in storage, my cousin, who quit asking about the consoles after a month of me saying no by the way, comes over to visit, and we're just hanging out and bonding when he gives me a housewarming gift, which was an N64 cartridge of Majora's Mask because it was our favorite game. Now, when my cousin gave me that, my uncle absolutely did not like that. Fast forward 2 nights later and I'm in bed sleeping, and it's right about then that I hear a loud click, followed by a snap. I jump out of my bed looking for anything I can use as a weapon, while also calling the police in the process. I slowly peek my head out and I see my uncle's bald head glaring in the moonlight, going through my stuff as quietly as he can. After about 10 minutes of him going through my stuff, the cops finally show up. We then go through a litany of questions, and I watch him get put into a cop car and all of that. He broke in through my balcony window. I come to find out later that the click I heard was from the crowbar pushing into the lock and snapping it apart on the window. Also, the window was completely spiderwebbed and basically shattered. Thankfully, when assessing the damages, nothing was stolen. Fast forward to about 2 days later, and since the incident, I've bought some cameras off of Amazon. They're not the best, but they alert my phone and they are hidden. And when it comes to pressing charges, my cousin has asked me not to press charges. He's gone through a lot since the pandemic and couldn't handling losing his pops as well. I understand it's not exactly the best response, but he is my family. But I will say I am in the process of getting a restraining order, just to ensure that my uncle never comes near my stuff ever again. That uncle sounds absolutely unhinged. I mean, he seriously took it from like 0 to 1,000 pretty quickly. Who goes from, hey, you should hand over all your stuff and give it to your cousin, all the way up to, oh, that's okay, I'll just break into your house and steal it from you anyways. Like, that is seriously insane to me, and there is quite literally no good excuse for that type of action. Like, what was this guy thinking? Did he think that he would get away with this, and that he was some kind of stealthy ninja trying to steal some gaming consoles? Also, the original poster's cousin can have it for themselves? Like, give me a break. I'm starting to see why the original poster said, you know what, I'm not going to give you any of this. I'm going to keep this to myself, and you're not allowed to borrow it as kids. Because I bet you with the uncle in the picture, they probably would have never gotten any of that back, and what was previously borrowed would have probably become the property of the uncle, and this guy would have never seen it again. The original poster goes on to say that the only reason they did not take any kind of action and press charges against their uncle was because their cousin stepped in. If the cousin did not step in, then they say they would have absolutely pressed charges, which honestly, I would be pressing charges anyways. If I was in the original poster's shoes and my uncle broke into my house trying to rob me blind and tried to take my gaming consoles, you know, the things that are retro and probably valuable at this point, I would be furious. Some of those consoles and game cartridges and all the stuff I've collected as a child mean a lot to me personally. So I understand where the original poster's coming from, where you want to try and keep your stuff safe and keep it out of the greedy hands of those who would want to take it and sell it off for themselves. And the uncle of this story absolutely fits the bill. So hopefully you're able to get a restraining order sooner than later, because your uncle sounds incredibly creepy, and the fact that he would break into your house for something like this is more than enough evidence for you to know that this guy is not someone that you should want in your life. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. The bar I work at in the restaurant I'm employed with is being closed down 2 months ahead of time for renovations. And not only was I blindsided by this information, I am also now stuck trying to figure out what I'm gonna do work-wise. And I'm so angry over this situation, and I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So I've worked in the food industry for a good minute, about 5 to 6 years now, and I've spent the last 2 years of that bartending, and close to a year of that being at a chain restaurant that you may or may not have heard of. And let's just say that my time has been interesting. High turnover rates, bouncing between low hours to working doubles back to back, inventory being poorly handled, to the point where I'm making all my cocktails with vodka and a hope and a prayer. All this with a promise of a big renovation that'll fix everything. And this renovation has also been pushed back 4 times now. In the time I've been there, I have seen 7 bartenders and countless servers quit or get fired. And this includes managers, and who knows how many in the back of house. All this to say that it's an absolute mess. A lot of it because of poor management, as well as the owners coming in and changing up a laundry list of rules that can only come up from people who haven't worked inside a restaurant for probably the last 15 years. But this Friday tops it all. I came in after a nice refreshing weekend to see my bar now has a giant wall with a little door for staff to go through and a sign that says bar closed. I asked my manager what was going on, and they say to me, renovations are coming up, so they're getting a head start on the bar. You won't be taking any bar tops. Just make drinks for the servers. This will be the way it is until renovations officially begin in 2 months. So I asked them, what about my tips? That's more than 1/3 of my income I'm gonna be losing out on because of this. To which, after just now finding out today, the owners say, oh well, either keep on trying to get by with your meager hourly and tip outs, or host and make drinks, but we're only gonna pay you the host wage. I am so upset. I'm furious that these people can be so callous towards someone who's stuck around when there have been so many times I should have left. Who can have such a disregard for someone who's been trying to make a living and enjoying the job while doing it? These last few days of work have been me standing behind the bar being miserable, making the few drinks that come in every other half hour. I absolutely hate it. I miss chatting with my regulars. I miss making drinks for people whose reactions I can see, as well as just talking to the people who might wander up to my bar. I even miss some of the jerks who could never be satisfied. Right now, I'm miserable, and my income has been cut because I decided 11 months ago I wanted to bartend here. I am looking for other jobs, and though I know it will be difficult, what with the hiring markets looking like they are right now, I am hopeful I can get out of this strut. It's unfortunate that I'm being driven out, but I hope at the end of all this, I'll find myself in a new bar with a management staff that will hopefully appreciate my hard work. What an awful thing to do to your employee. I mean, first off, they're closing down the bar 2 months before renovations. Like, that's just dumb if you ask me. They haven't even begun renovations and they're just like, okay, let's close the bar. Like, maybe close it down like, I don't know, a week beforehand and tell the bartender like, hey, you're gonna be losing this spot in 2 months. That way they can have some kind of proper notice to either stick around and stay or to find a new job. Like, there's no reason for them to have to suffer with their employment just because the owners are complete morons about how they're doing it. I mean, the managers had to have known what was going on beforehand. So why did nobody bother to give you a heads up in the first place? That is really low down and incredibly dirty. So hopefully with your job hunt, everything goes well, because this place clearly did not value you as a worker, and I honestly think you can do so much better than this terrible place. I'm afraid that my boyfriend will end our relationship if I move and take a job out of state, and at this point, I don't know what to do. So for some background, I have been at my current job for less than a year, and it has been absolutely miserable. I work for the state government, and it's just a good old boy system that I wasn't ready for. I work too hard and have been told once by a manager, and then again by another manager and HR, that I am too aggressive, which is dumb, because I was holding a man accountable for something we pay him $250,000 to do a year, and it's made coming to work sad, annoying, and it is draining. Right now, I have the option to interview for a QA position that's about an hour and a half away from the house we share with roommates, and it does pay better than my current job, but still not as much as I was hoping, starting at like $55,000 a year. I was approached by the company I used to intern for, and they want me for a QA management position, which could start out at $80,000 a year, but it is in Pennsylvania, and we currently live in Kentucky. Before I decided I didn't want to go to grad school, I was talking about going away, and he said long distance wasn't worth it, and we probably would have to break up if I did go long distance. Him saying that alone gives me so much anxiety around telling him that if they offered, I might move to get a better job, but I just know he is going to say I am not prioritizing our relationship or prioritizing him by moving. But honestly, when do I get to be the priority? I would never hold my significant other back from an opportunity that would help them excel in life. The company I would work for out of state would even help me get my master's degree if I wanted. Is there any way when I talk to him about it to make him understand that the long distance would be only temporary and that we could do it, and that he should want what's best for me? I mean, I know those relationships are hard, but I'm willing to do whatever it takes. I'm just so sad at the fact that I think he would end our relationship if I did have to move long distance. I truly have loved him more than anyone else, and I don't want anything else, but I also want to be successful in my lifetime. What should I do? It honestly is kind of a catch-22. On one hand, you're around your boyfriend and you're able to enjoy his company face to face, but at the same time, you really do hate your current job, and you've already been mislabeled as something that you're not at work, simply by trying to do your job. And that's not fair in the slightest. That really isn't. So to that end, I really don't blame you for trying to find a new job and better yourself and your career. And you know what? If you did get an offer from this other place and they gave you the added bonus of getting your master's degree taken care of, then man, that would be a big wasted opportunity to not say yes, especially if this isn't a career that you want to excel in. So with that in mind, and with all things considered, it's honestly really disappointing to see your boyfriend basically being like, oh, if you move far away from Kentucky, we're gonna have to break up. It's almost like he just doesn't care about your situation in the slightest, and he's only judging the situation off of what would be considerate and convenient for him, despite the fact that you're miserable at your job. And while yes, long distance relationships really can work, but both parties have to be on board, and it really does sound like your boyfriend would not be up for that. So honestly, if I was in your shoes and a job offered me not only a good job out of state, but also with the opportunity that they would help me get my master's degree taken care of, you better believe I'm gonna go for that degree and pursue my passions to the best of my ability. There is no way I would let up that opportunity in the slightest. You deserve it to yourself, as well as the hard work you put in just to get a 4-year degree in the first place, which by the way is not easy and it's not for everybody. So hopefully there's some kind of middle ground you can make with your boyfriend, because the way he's acting is really unfair for your goals and your aspirations. And I really think you deserve a lot better than getting treated like garbage at work and being miscategorized as someone who's aggressive when you're just trying to hold people accountable and be the upstanding worker that you know you can be. My girlfriend is making me feel awful about still living at home, and it really hurt my feelings, and I seriously don't know what to do. So my girlfriend of almost a year is making me feel pretty awful about my living situation. She is so so kind and loving and understanding, but she doesn't realize how much this is hurting me. She doesn't come from a great family, and they kicked her out as soon as she turned 18. So she was thrown right into independence way before she should have been. I, on the other hand, have a very helpful and loving family. I dropped out of college 7 years ago, and time has kind of flown by. I have never had a girlfriend before, so I really didn't spend much time planning a future or a timeline. I was just kind of seeing where things were gonna go. My girlfriend told me when we first started dating that she's looking for something serious. She wants to get married, she wants to have kids, and she wants this in the next few years. I agreed and I said I am looking for the same. I also have a decent paying job right now, so it's not like I'm just laying around not doing anything. She told me that before we move in together, I should spend time living alone by myself so I can learn about finances and expenses. I applied for one apartment on Zillow and didn't hear anything back, so I kind of just gave up. But I do want to move in with her though. My parents pay pretty much all of my bills except for my car. They pay my insurance, my food, my phone bill, etc. They also deal with all the insurance specifics. I have been trying to find my own insurance, and my girlfriend seems to look down on me when I struggle to do it or attempt to apply. Since I'm on their current medical insurance right now, my mom helps me find a doctor since they're in her network. She was a bit rude when she was explaining the cost of living to me, and I told her I don't really know how much groceries cost since my family pays for them. She said to me, "You really don't know how much toilet paper costs?" Or even complaining to me that I don't know how much my phone bill is. I feel so judged, and she needs to realize that barely anybody her age is doing what she's doing. All of my friends live at home right now, and some don't even have jobs and do nothing with their life. But I'm honestly really heartbroken by the things that my girlfriend said, and I seriously don't know what to do. Honestly, I think to an extent your girlfriend has a point. For some context, the original poster is 26 in this story, and I think if you want to be seen as some kind of serious relationship option for this lady, you really do need to get your stuff figured out. And that includes knowing how to pay for your bills, which by the way, you don't do a lot of that at all. You've never lived alone, you don't even make your own doctor's appointments. I mean, with all things considered, despite the fact that she was maybe a little bit rude about it, I think she has a solid point. Also, it really sounds like you're not taking any steps to be more independent. Like, yeah, she got kicked out when she was 18 years old, and she had to basically figure life out as it went, and that is definitely not an easy way to go about life, and it can be jarring and really frustrating. But you know what? If she can make it work, then so can you. So maybe looking for an apartment of your own and learning how to pay for basic bills and stuff like that, as well as knowing the basic cost of living, would probably go a really long way for you. And I don't think this has to do with the fact that you live at home. I think it's more to the fact that you don't do any necessary adult things, even though you're an adult in the house. So instead of sulking about it, I think you just need to listen to what she's saying. Just be humble about it and try and see where she's coming from. Because I don't think she's saying these things to make you feel bad about yourself, but rather it really does sound like she's trying to help you move forward with your life. And I really have to disagree with what you're saying when you said that barely anyone her age is doing what she's doing. That is so incorrect, it's not even funny. There are many independent people who are much younger than her, who are more put together and more independent than what you're describing. So hopefully you can apply yourself and be the man that she's looking for. Because what you've described right now is really sheltered, and it really seems like you're in a bubble. And hopefully sooner than later, you can figure out what it means to be an adult and provide for yourself. My entitled boss demands that I ship equipment to him that he literally would just have to ship across the country again just to get it to its proper location. And after having my job getting laid off, I decided to maliciously comply. And as a result, I cost the company hundreds of dollars in the process. And it truly felt amazing. Here's what happened. A couple of years ago, I took a fantastic job as an IT manager in a remote role for a healthcare company. It was the best job I'd ever had. The best salary, the total freedom. I had a wonderful boss who trusted me to do my job. I was brought on to create an internal IT team, and this was for a company that had 19 offices in 3 US states. And I was given free reign to create the team I saw fit. I hired a great admin for both our California and Missouri markets, and I served that role for Alabama. The employees loved us. Most tickets were resolved in an hour or two, instead of the outsourced company taking a day or two, and maybe not even fixing the issue in itself. We were saving the company close to $500,000 per year just in outsourced costs versus the salaries that they provide us. It was absolutely glorious, but my boss ended up deciding to become a stay-at-home dad. I was looking to advance to his position, but our new CEO instead created a new vice president of IT position for a guy she had worked with for 7 previous previous years. Sadly, the new guy was the micromanager of all micromanagers. He had the company credit card closed, and I went from discretionary limit of $10,000 all the way down to having to ask for his approval on $10 network cables. He put himself on every account, removed most of my authority, and in effect, I was basically demoted. One day, I visited one of our sites and picked up a bunch of stuff. 5 desktop PCs, a carton full of keyboards, mice, and cables, weird odds and ends. The idea was that I would take it to one of our other facilities and store it there, save the desktop PCs that I would ship to our outsource partner. Well, I went on vacation, only to come home to discover that the previous Friday had been my last day. I was getting 2-week severance, and they were eliminating the department entirely. I asked the vice president about the equipment, and he told me to ship all of it to him, and he would dispense of it. Now, I assumed he wanted me to ship it to the outsource company, or at least to do so with the PCs, but no. The thing is, the vice president lives in Colorado. We have no branches there. The outsource partner is in Missouri, meaning that no matter what, he would at least be reshipping those PCs to Missouri. Oh well, not my problem anymore. I went to FedEx and I carted all that garbage in there. They offered me various methods, but I told them that it was all going on the company's account. I told them to ship it ground, but to do so in whatever method made them the most money. Friends, they spent well over 3 hours carefully wrapping and padding all of that equipment. It charged the company several hundreds of dollars. By my best estimate from previous shipping that I had done with them, it was about triple of what it should have been. And of course, the vice president also had to pay to ship those desktops again. But hey, he told me to do it. The company held my severance until they got the equipment, so I guess I satisfied their requirements or something like that. But now I've moved on to better things than those people. I did have to take a small pay cut, and it did take me 3 months to find a good job, but I did find that good job, and I honestly couldn't be happier to be away from the people that I previously worked for. That is honestly so funny to me, and really is hilarious when it comes to maliciously complying to some sort of manager. Oh, you want me to ship it all the way to you in Colorado, even though this gear needs to go to Missouri? Cool, we're gonna do this in the most expensive way possible, and it's coming out of your budget because guess what? I don't work there anymore. So while I'm sorry that the original poster lost their job, and under stupid circumstances at that, at least you were able to get the last word by costing this company hundreds of dollars in the process. Because based on what you described, they deserve this kind of bad karma to come their way. My entitled mother would barge into my house anytime she wanted, whether I was there or not, and then go rummaging through my belongings as if she owned the place. And after dealing with this for so many years, I finally put my foot down and told her to stop, and as a result, she went ballistic on me. Here's what happened. So my mother has always had a hard time with boundaries. Growing up, she was fond of telling me it was her room because it was her house, and she could come and go as she pleased and snoop through my space at will. The same with my car or my phone or anything else. No matter if I was paying for it with my own money or not, she had rights to everything. After I got married and moved across the country, she followed a year later just to be close, in case I might need her. She settled in a town about an hour away, and I saw her a few times a month. She was generally a good grandmother, very involved, and nobody could say she didn't love my daughter a ton. She was given a key to my house for various reasons and didn't overuse it too much, but she had a hard time recognizing that I was an adult now, and I made the rules for my own children, not her. Mild things like wanting to hand feed my 7-year-old and telling me I should allow things that I did not, as well as arguing with me in front of her about my rules, that kind of stuff. After I separated from my ex-husband and moved into my own house with my daughter, she was again given a key for emergencies, and this is when she started to cross some lines. She would go shopping and drop things off at my house, still an hour away from her own house, and just leave bags of things in various places. She's always been a bit of a compulsive shopper and a hoarder, if I'm being completely honest, but these things were usually useful. Cases of paper towels, bottles of laundry detergent, piles of conditioner, that kind of thing. But she'd just show up unannounced and leave things in my house, usually in my unfinished basement floor. The basement flooded every time it rained for half an hour, and these things frequently got wet or ruined. I asked her to stop multiple times because I was tired of throwing away soaked rolls of toilet paper, but she continued doing it the whole time I lived there. It was incredibly frustrating. Then I moved back across the country, and she again came with me, actually living in my house for a few months until she could find her own. And this was an absolute disaster. Her old space invading behavior from my childhood came roaring back into my life. life. She would barge into my bedroom and my bathroom without knocking. She would argue with me about my parenting and openly disparage me to my child when I wasn't around. She would buy 15 bottles of dishwashing liquid because they were on sale and got angry when I told her I didn't need them. I eventually asked her to move out for the sake of our relationship. She did find her own place, but kept the key to my house. Her random drop-ins increased to multiple times a week. I would come home to whatever random haul she brought that day just sitting on my table, or she would need to borrow a carving knife and just let herself in while I was at work to go grab it. I'd be in the shower and get out to find her in my kitchen, having not gotten an answer when she knocked, so she just let herself in with my key. I asked her to stop so many times. I don't like unannounced visitors, and I hate knowing that someone was in my house without me being there. But she continued unbated. She let herself in at one point and went through my daughter's things, which prompted my daughter to ask me if she could confront her grandmother and ask her to not do that again. But my mother went ballistic when that happened and said that she would give the key back, but she never did. She continued to show up randomly, but now saying that she knew she should have called first and just forgot. My daughter and I moved again last summer, and I was adamant that my mother was not going to get a key to my house or the security code. She has continued to show up randomly, and my significant other opened the door a few times, mostly because he isn't as good at hiding as my daughter and I are. Because if he's not home, we don't answer. She showed up unannounced last week with stuff for Valentine's Day. I work from home, so I was here. I was also on a conference call, so I didn't go to the door. My significant other happened to be home and opened it for her, so she came in and chatted for about 10 minutes and then left. And this was the last straw for me. I'm over these surprise visits, especially when I'm working and my bosses can hear my dogs going nuts because someone new is in my house. So I texted her and I told her for the 100th time to please stop. I don't care what the occasion is or what she had to drop off. Just stop showing up to my house unannounced. This is a boundary that she needs to respect. And then, as you probably guess, she loses her mind. She starts screaming at me and saying, "You're a controlling brat and you can't tell me what to do. I was just trying to do something nice for Valentine's Day. And you know what? I hope you have a child in the future that's so hateful and mean as you are." And when she said this, it was honestly awful but so needed. She further went on to say that she won't do anything else for me ever again. She's having surgery next week and needed to talk to me about it. She has a supposed very busy schedule that day and lots of places to go, so that's why she couldn't call or text me first. She planned on just leaving the candy on the front porch, but my significant other opened the door, so it's his fault. And she just kept going on and on. I finally told her I wouldn't be reading or responding any further, and she just responded by saying, "Good, that's fine." Fast forward, and the silence for the last 10 days has been golden, but I feel like the teenager in a scary movie who mistakenly thinks the villain with the axe is gone, only for them to pop out of the closet later. So hopefully she respects my boundaries, because I honestly don't want to deal with her in that capacity ever again. Your mom seriously was violating your boundaries, like no joke. She followed you across the country multiple times just to be next to you so she could literally bother you. And there's no other way of putting it. She would straight up just barge into your house while you weren't there, or even while you're in the shower, just to grab stuff that she wanted. And that's not fair for you or anybody else in the slightest. That is such a violation of privacy, it's not even funny. But even in that same vein of thought, I don't blame you for giving your mom multiple chances to try and be somewhat reasonable. I mean, it is your mom after all. But with that considered, it's really inappropriate for her to be barging into your house while you're not there just to get stuff, or to drop off stuff that you don't need. That is incredibly obnoxious, and honestly, I don't blame you for setting these boundaries and telling her to please stop. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. My best friend cut me off out of nowhere, and I'm really hurt and offended, and I seriously don't know what to do. So as the title suggests, I'm blocked on everything. I knew her for 14 years and knew her entire family, which I got really close to. A few years ago, I got really sick. She stepped up and went above and beyond for me. She made medical decisions for me when I wasn't able to, and I honestly don't think I would be here today if it wasn't for her. She implied that she didn't approve of the new guy in my life. She told me that when him and I start dating, she's done. Now, this guy has been nothing but supportive throughout this weird time. In the past, I'd been in relationships, both romantic and platonic, that didn't make me happy. Before I got sick, I was actively working on improving myself. I was going to therapy, I was getting into hobbies, I stayed single, etc. I told her this and more, and she disagreed. She said there was real-life consequences to me being in a relationship. A few months went by, and she said that I misinterpreted our conversation, which I know I didn't. She said that I was only attracted to him because of my unhealed trauma, because he wasn't a heartthrob. To avoid back and forth, I just agreed. She said that we're different people, which we'd always joke about, and it doesn't make sense for us to be friends. I didn't argue with her because it was clear that she wanted out. I thanked her for everything, and I told her that I loved her and that I didn't want to lose her. She wished me the best of luck and said that I can contact her if stuff goes down, and then she just straight up blocked me. I am at such a loss right now. I don't understand what could have led to this. I'm still dealing with the aftermath of being ill, and I can confidently say that I can't imagine exiting someone else's life that I care about while they're ill. Her cousin just blocked me on social media as well, and I can't help but think that I've done something wrong. What should I do? It really does seem like the original poster's friend is kind of being a jerk right now. Like they're just cutting him off all of the sudden without any kind of context as to what's happening. So that to me kind of screams that there's some information we're not being told. Is there a reason why she doesn't want you to be in a relationship right now? Or is there something about the guy that she just doesn't approve of? And so she's saying, sorry, but we can't be friends if you're with them. There's something that's not quite being said that really just says to me that maybe the original poster isn't telling the full truth right now. But regardless, it really does sound like an unfortunate situation because it sounds like the original poster really did love this friend. I mean, the friend was even willing to step up and make medical decisions for them just to make sure that they're alive and healthy. Like that is a seriously big deal. So I really can't understand why you would be so attached to this person and why you would be so sad to see them go. But I really don't like the method in which this friend is leaving. They're deciding, hey, if things go really wrong, you can contact me, but otherwise you're blocked. It seems like there should have been more of a discussion involved in this instead of just being like, hey, I'm gonna block you. Oh, and by the way, my cousin's gonna block you as well. Which means to me that the original poster's friend is talking to basically everybody else about your situation besides you. And that, in my opinion, is super toxic. So whatever the truth may be, hopefully it all works out for you because either this is really not a good friend to begin with, or she really is trying to look out for your best interest. My best friend and I wanted to share an apartment together for our last year of university, but the day we're supposed to move in, she ran away and refused to move in. And now our relationship is slowly starting to strain, all the way to the point where she's completely ghosting me and I no longer have any contact with her. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. So to start things out, we knew each other for 2 years. We attended the same college together and even went on vacation together this summer. She originally lived 7 hours away with her boyfriend and moved back and forth every few months just to attend classes at university. Because it was going into our last semester, we planned to move in together for the remaining months. We rented a place without seeing it in person, only via Zoom. The minute she arrived, she wanted to move out. It really was a cute place, but her boyfriend who was there to help felt sick. He had an allergy to mold. Even though they couldn't find any, she decided that was enough to not want to live here. Her reason was that her boyfriend would never be able to visit her. I felt so hurt, but I understood and quickly organized someone else since I couldn't afford to pay rent by myself. And it turned out I clicked extremely well with my new flatmate. She and I spent every 1 to 2 days together. My BFF got jealous and told me she wanted to see me every day and that I should ask for meetups since she didn't want to get on my nerves. I only asked once a week though because that was enough for me. After 3 months, she broke down crying as to why she was second priority now. I explained I naturally spend more time with my flatmate because we live together and that I got busy with university and if she wanted to do more, she could propose something directly, but she rarely did. She felt guilty for leaving me alone in the apartment and I comforted her. I was not angry. Also, she complained that once I asked her to hang out after my flatmate canceled and I invited her to meet in threes a few times. All of that made her feel less worthy. She also got hurt because I didn't answer her for 2 days when she tried to reach out, and this happened several times. I apologized to her and I explained that I fell into a depressive episode during the exam phase. It's totally my fault, so I really was sorry. I did my best to reconcile and answer quickly, and eventually I thought things were better, but I was wrong. She turned down almost all invitations I sent to meet alone, and she now ignored my text messages for days at a time. On her last day of university, she eventually called me again. She felt uncomfortable in our friendship. Things got better over the last few weeks, but couldn't make up for the weeks before. I apologized again and promised to keep showing showing attention. I bought flowers, I drove to her house, and I said my goodbyes. After she moved, I asked her if I could visit her the following months, but she overread my text message and only texted me organizational stuff for university. So I asked her again if she's got any time so I could come and visit, but she didn't know. She promised to tell me soon though, and after that, I never heard from her since, and that was about 1 month ago. Since then, I've texted her twice, telling her a harmless inside joke from our vacation, as well as 2 weeks later, stating that I miss her. She is active on social media, so I know she's alive and well. I just feel so helpless, and I know that I kinda messed up. What should I do? Honestly, this is kind of a messy situation, but the fact that your friend is throwing away your friendship all because you spent more time with your flatmate instead of her, who by the way walked out on you when you were trying to get the apartment set up, is in my opinion completely selfish. She's trying to claim there's mold in the apartment, but you then have no evidence to try and corroborate that claim? Like, come on, that's ridiculous. She put you in a really weird situation, and thankfully you were able to come out on top. And it's not like you were ignoring her or anything like that. You were just busy with university in your last year. Senior year of college is probably the most stressful in some cases. You're about to start a career, you're trying to finish on time and graduate, you're trying to get passing grades. There was a lot on your plate. I don't think any reasonable person would blame you for being busy. And also, it really seems like you were second place to her boyfriend as well. And she instead wanted you to prioritize all of your time towards her. And that's not fair in the slightest. She would always expect you to initiate stuff and would expect you to go out of your way to try and organize stuff in your free time. But she would never be willing to do the same on her end. So honestly, I just would not worry about this. If this is the end of your relationship, despite the fact that you tried to make amends for any supposed offense that you may have caused, then I truly think that's on your friend, because you've honestly done everything right in my opinion. And if she wants to ghost you and act this way, then truly that's on her. My fiance suggested a break, and now I'm conflicted on how to respond, and I seriously don't know what to do. My fiance and I have been together for almost 5 years and engaged for over a year. She had a lot of emotional problems growing up and has been diagnosed with CPTSD, among other mental health conditions. She recently stated to me that she feels like she loves me but isn't in love with me. I can normally tell when she's having a good mental health day versus when it's a bad mental health day, and I tried to explain to her that I think those feelings are coming from her condition, because I can see the way her eyes light up and she gets excited just looking at me or talking about our wedding or our future together, as well as future kids on her good days. While skeptical at first, she told me that her therapist seems to agree with me, saying she believes those are intrusive thoughts coming about because of her PTSD and not her actual thoughts or feelings. For full disclosure, during this time, I realized that I put my job first over her. This was not intentional, but working 50 to 60 hours a week, I would come home mentally and physically exhausted, and we didn't have the time to ourselves, whether in the house or out and about like we used to. I apologize profusely, and I promise to be better and make time for her as well as the both of us, like I had done before we got engaged. Now fast forward a few weeks later, and she suggested that we need a break. She said she needed time to figure out her stuff and make sure that it truly was intrusive thoughts and not how she actually felt. She said that we've never spent more than a week apart since we started dating, and that absence makes the heart fonder, and that after a couple weeks away, she would realize I was giving her what she needed and would come back. I'm just so lost on if she's so confident that she'll come back after the break, then why is the break even necessary in the first place? However, she's also suggested that she feels like she may be missing out and doesn't want any regrets when she gets married, because I'm the only guy she's ever done more than kiss with. How do I react and talk her through this? I'm obviously not a mental health expert, nor can I read her mind, but I'm convinced that I know her true feelings may be better than her right now. I would do anything for her, and I'm willing to give her the space if she needs it to try and figure out her thoughts, but I'm terrified I'm going to lose her, especially if there's any consideration to meet up with others during the break. It's honestly so confusing and so frustrating, and I seriously don't know what to do. First off, I want to say that this guy was dating her when she was 18 and he was 24. So I think the original poster needs to realize that quite literally, her entire adult life has been with this person. The original poster, for context, is almost 30 years old. They are probably very secure in what they want out of life, and they basically have probably seen enough to know what's going on. His girlfriend, on the other hand, is only 23 years old, and they haven't been with anybody else in their life. And also, she is only 23 years old, and she's possibly getting married to you. Like, I'm not saying saying that shouldn't happen, but I don't think you can possibly blame her for wanting to pump the brakes and reassess her situation. So hopefully things work out for you, because from the sounds of it, there's a lot of emotional turmoil that's going on right now, and it really does sound like this is something that she needs to work out. Today, I messed up by not apologizing to our farmer neighbors and likely ruining my parents' retirement home forever. Here's what happened. So I tried to get advice on this and stick to my principles of not offering an apology when not in the wrong, but I think it's become clear that I messed up, and I could have prevented this with a better attitude. I'm an 18-year-old female and I live with my parents, and we moved last year from a big city to a cheaper, more rural community in the Midwest. Since my dad's retired now and money goes further here, I'm also going to finish up my last year of high school here. We have by far the smallest lot out here, and most of our neighbors are farmers with quite a bit of land. I don't feel like we fit in well with the neighbors, and have had some arguments with some of them and their kids. They're up early in the morning, making noise every single morning with farm machinery, and they even yelled at me for listening to rap music too loud in the car late at night, even though it was only 9 o'clock or so. And this was with a friend in high school. And most recently, they let one of their cows go into our yard when it was grazing, while I was out in the backyard, and I gave them a dirty look and stood there while they tried to get it back. Recently, I guess he talked to my dad and gave him some sort of redneck, "we don't take kindly to your behavior" kind of speech, and that wasn't how things operated around these parts, and they wanted me to apologize. So my dad asked me to, but I refused because I think they're in the wrong towards me. I saw him out back one day, and he asked me if I had anything to say about my attitude, and I said to them, I haven't done anything wrong to you. I just think you should respect other people's property and boundaries. So he said to me, "All right then, have it your way," and just walked off. Well, my dad and I left town for spring break, but when we came back, we noticed construction was heavily underway. It was almost complete, and it was on a large shed structure right up against the property line, maybe 20 feet from our house. My mom asked a woman who lives a bit further down if they knew what it was about, and they said, "Oh yeah, I guess the word is that they've had some trouble with your daughter, and they've made the decision to put in a pig barn." My parents freaked out when they heard this, and they asked around and heard this was a known tactic to drive out unwanted neighbors, and it was very effective. My dad called the city and asked about odor nuisance laws and what can be done, but was told that the area is zoned agriculture and that it was more of an honor system thing, that farmers wouldn't do that without more land. But technically, he was allowed to have up to 200 pigs on the property. He asked the neighbor if he would reconsider, but he said that the order of pigs is already scheduled and his mind was made up. Now my dad is furious with me and frantic about what to do. At first, I told him to just ignore it and let them do what they're gonna do. But from the people I've talked to online, they're saying that's probably not going to be possible for us. I thought he was overreacting at first, but now I'm facing the prospect that I really did crash the value of their property for good, and that we're all about to be very miserable. They finished construction on the barn, so I guess the moment of truth is finally on its way. What an awful thing to do to somebody. Like seriously, that is awful. Here you have people who are just trying to mind their own business, and they're literally just trying to live their lives. And sure, the original poster was kind of being rude a little bit, I guess, but as far as we can tell, they only played loud music at like 9 o'clock in their car. Like that's really not that bad. And they may have given a dirty look to somebody in their backyard. So it's really bizarre to me that this farmer would be so thin-skinned that they have to be like, "You need to apologize right now, or else I'm gonna build a pig barn right next to your house." Like, talk about the overreaction of the century. Here's an idea. Maybe keep your stupid cow off of other people's property and leave people alone. Let them live their lives. Unless there's other things going on that the original poster clearly did not share with the class, it doesn't sound like anything they did would warrant this kind of overreaction. So hopefully all of this works out for you, because honestly, I really do see you guys moving in the next few months, because living in that kind of environment next to pigs and all of their waste, if you know what I mean, is going to be absolutely miserable, and there's no way that's gonna work in the slightest. An entitled Karen prevents a cancer patient from ringing the celebratory bell that would state that they are cancer-free, and instead demands that her spoiled child should ring the bell instead, claiming that their stupid child deserves to ring this bell way more than this recovering cancer patient. And I've never seen this level of cruelty and entitlement in my entire life. Here's what happened. So I first off want to say there's so many good things happening in my life, and one of those being that my body is cancer-free. But with the good comes the bad, as well as this mind-boggling encounter that happened as I was leaving leaving the clinic this morning. I was just a witness, and the lady who was the target of Mama Karen and the entitled brat was happy for me to share this with the world. So for those of you unfamiliar with a cancer ward or a clinic where chemo is administered, and I pray you always will be unfamiliar with it, there is a little brass bell. The bell is a symbol of hope for all. It marks the end of treatment and the ringing in of a new chapter, and that new chapter is hopefully cancer-free. For me, I vomited right before I rang the bell because the anxiety of the unknown was almost as bad as chemo itself. But that's a story for another time. Today, it was Jane's turn to ring the bell. Jane is not her real name. Jane is a really lovely lady. She's 58 years old with stage 2 ovarian cancer. She had a hysterectomy followed by chemo. Jane's diagnosis is great, but she's had it rough. During the hysterectomy, she almost bled out due to undiagnosed complications, and this left her hospitalized for over 3 weeks. It delayed her treatment by over a month and left her fearing for the worst. Jane really is the most lovely woman you could ever meet. She's the grandma that everyone wants to have, but is kind of glad that they don't. She's funny and loving, but can give you a look that makes you back away like you're staring down a hungry grizzly bear. Everyone that interacts with Jane loves her, and honestly, the woman saved my sanity on more than one occasion during my treatment. Another thing that may differ from ward to ward is the chemo room itself. The patients in ours sit in a little oval room that's like a giant lounge with comfy chairs and a little TV. There are drinks and biscuits off to one side and room enough for 10 patients and up to 2 visitors. As I was leaving my appointment, I saw Jane's daughter, who informed me today was the day. So I decided to stick around to see her ring the bell, and I am so glad that I did. A couple weeks ago, a new patient joined the group. We will call him Sam. That's not his real name. Sam seems like a relatively nice older gentleman with an absolute awful excuse of a daughter and a grandchild. In the limited interactions I've had with these two entitled brats, I've seen the daughter stealing biscuits off of people who are currently hooked up to chemo machines, as well as the mother screaming at nurses for reprimanding the child when she attempted to rip the cannulas out of patients' arms. I genuinely have no idea why the facility hasn't banned this entitled Karen and her stupid brat. Well, like I said, today was the day that Jane would ring the bell. Unlike some places where the bell is on the wall, our unit has a little old-fashioned brass bell that the nurses keep behind the desk 90% of the time. Today, just as Jane was getting ready to hopefully walk out for the final time, the nurse brought the bell over to the little side table. At first, the little fallen angel didn't notice the bell. She was too busy attempting to crush the souls of the elderly, as well as the souls of the sick, by playing with her Switch. Not loud enough to be kicked out, but just loud enough to be annoying and incredibly distracting. Once Jane was ready, the nurse stood by the little side table and made a short speech about Jane and her final day of the journey. Just as the speech was wrapping up, the tiny terror shot out of nowhere, almost knocking Jane to the ground. She reached up and grabbed the bell. Now Jane, being the no-nonsense granny that she is, took the bell out of baby Beelzebub's hands and firmly but gently said, "No, honey, that isn't for you. It's not a toy." And my gods, did that unleash some kind of mythological demon? Because the screech that child released at being told no was loud enough to shatter glass. This entitled brat lunged at Jane, trying to grab the bell from her hand. All the while, the entitled Karen of a mother stood there and started screaming at Jane. She started to say, "You can't do that. She's an innocent child. What kind of disgusting woman takes a toy from an innocent child? You're a horrible person. Give her back that bell right now. You don't need it. She deserves it more." Honestly, this entitled Karen and all the things she was saying was a lot. It also wasn't even a conversation. I'm pretty sure she just growled it all in one breath. The heartbeat screeches went on for about 30 seconds of just incomprehensible nonsense. Eventually, Bertha Big Mac waddled her way over to Jane to try and take the bell from her. But Jane did not have time for this stupid lady. Jane's got a bell to ring and a life to live. So as this rampaging rhino gets up to Jane, Jane goes full heathen mode on her. She looks this entitled Karen dead in the eye and says to her something I honestly will never forget. She says, "Your father must have been the bad guys during World War II in his past life if he got to be lumped up with such a sorry excuse for a daughter." And when she said this took everybody by surprise, as there was a brief pause before Jane unleashed everything that she had been wanting to say to this Cerberus. Jane continued, "Do you have any idea how exhausting it is to finish a round of treatment with you and your obnoxious brat around, making everybody's lives miserable? I know God is testing us, but my God, we already have cancer now. Do I have to be saddled up with you two as well? You are disgusting. You are entitled and you are selfish. You are poorly behaved and your child is just as awful as you are. And I hate saying that to an innocent child, but my God, she's awful. I've never hated children before until I met yours, because she's truly that awful. She's not been kicked out of school because the teachers are targeting her. She's been kicked out of school because she's an entitled bully, just like her entitled stupid mother. And if you want any hope of her having a decent life, you'd better become a decent parent and correct some of her behavior. But oh, that's right, that would require correcting your own behavior. You disgusting, abominable excuse for a human being. It was glorious, awful, awkward, and silent. Betty Big Mouth had suddenly been struck dumb. The tantruming Tara was gaping like a fish out of water. And then there was Sam. Sam broke the silence when he started laughing, like a deep belly, full-bodied laugh. The entitled Karen looked horrified. She was angry, mystified, and humiliated as her father laughed hysterically. And to be fair, I don't think any of us knew how to react. And what felt like an hour but was most likely just about a minute, Sam stopped laughing and told his daughter and granddaughter that they can either sit down and shut up or go wait in the car. He then told Jane to go ahead and ring the bell. The slain beast and her stupid kids slinked back to their seats, where they both sat shell-shocked, while Jane rang the bell. We clapped, some of the cheap seats clapped a little too enthusiastically, and then Jane, her daughter, and I sauntered out of the room. Jane and I parted ways at the hospital entrance, and I wish her the world of luck, but I have a feeling that she won't need it. If you can slay 2 Karens in one 90-second rant, cancer is nothing. I love Jane, but my God, I'm so glad she isn't my grandma. Jane is absolutely amazing. I think when you go through that much turmoil and that much anxiety towards an illness that you have, dealing with an entitled Karen and their stupid brat is probably the least of your worries. She handled that like a pro. She let out every frustration she's been dealing with and let them know exactly what was up. And honestly, it was so well deserved. That entitled Karen and her stupid child were so out of line, it's not even funny. Like, there's literally no excuse that would excuse the way they were acting. And I'm so surprised that Sam didn't decide to step in and try and correct his daughter and granddaughter a little bit earlier. You would think he would at least notice what was going on and tell them, hey, you need to get lost. So honestly, I wish Jane the absolute best of luck, and hopefully this cancer is gone forever. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. My girlfriend keeps trying to force me to be friends with her sister's fiance, despite the fact that he's incredibly toxic and has stabbed me in the back multiple times. But despite it all, she won't let it go and demands that I gather some kind of friendship with this guy. And now I seriously don't know what to do. So since the beginning of this relationship, my girlfriend keeps trying to get me to be friends with her sister and her sister's fiance. Well, from the start, we never meshed well due to how different her family is, and I was honestly pretty quiet and reserved. Initially, it was a cultural shock for me because I am white and they are all Chinese. I kind of picked up on some things that were happening concerning interactions with her sister, as well as her fiance. For the sake of privacy, we'll call her sister Jane and her fiance John. Towards the beginning of the relationship, one of the things that my girlfriend would try to do would be to get us to game together on mobile games, because that's how they interacted with each other and bonded. So she figured it would be a great way to get to know them. Now, I tried to get into the same games with them, but I felt like I was an outcast because I was so new to the game and that I couldn't really enjoy the game, and I felt like I was ruining the dynamic. I felt this way because everyone would get super silent whenever I would lose or do something that was dumb in-game. So initially, gaming didn't really work out, and I feel like they kind of used that to form an image of me like I was some kind of idiot, incapable of being productive in regards to the team. As time went on, we randomly would go out to eat at restaurants, and I felt like John was ignoring me a lot of the times in conversations, because every time I tried to engage with everyone at the table, he would basically gloss over what I'd say and make the focus back onto him. Then there were times where I would reach out to John to try and get another male opinion on my relationship with my girlfriend, because my girlfriend mentioned John was like a brother to him. So I assumed that he'd be a good resource since he knew my girlfriend much better than I did at the time, due to being involved in her life for the past 3 years prior to us dating. He basically was like a brother in my girlfriend's eyes, and I used that as a reason to confide in him. Well, we had a personal conversation about an issue at one point, and he basically stabbed me in the back by telling her sister what I said and even completely twisted my own words so that I was viewed as this absolute jerk of a person trying to take advantage of my girlfriend. Word got back to my girlfriend then eventually me. And initially, I said to myself, what in the world is going on? But I just accepted it and I moved on. I always had this thought in the back of my head that John was jealous of me because of all these weird reasons I couldn't quite pinpoint, especially due to breaking the bro code. And I thought to myself that maybe he viewed me as a threat, so that seemed like a logical reason why he did not want to engage with me. Before I came into the picture 2+ years ago, it was only those three who supposedly were super close, and she could go to John for help with her family or life issues. So hearing this initially, I'd reach out to John for help because I don't talk to any of my family and I don't have anyone who I can go to for issues like that. I always felt like he spoke to me in a very condescending tone and viewed me as if I was beneath him due to my in-game abilities and my awkward reservedness that stems from anxiety. I've tried multiple times to reach out and actually personally try to be a friend with this guy. For example, he took his car to a family mechanic and the mechanic basically destroys his engine during a rebuild, which basically left his car sitting in a garage. Ever since that point, I took it upon myself to go over one day, call up a car buddy who works on cars, and put those two in contact with each other so that he can get his car fixed. I also went over, helped him install this roof rack that he was struggling with on his car because he looked like he could use a second set of hands. I do these things because I truly try to be a good friend, because no one does these types of things for me. All I've ever felt like is that I was used for someone else's personal gain, because he never reaches out to me on his own accord, only when it's convenient for him. This guy John proved to me that he doesn't view me as a friend because he only contacts me to help him since I have tools or something along those lines. He's never called me or asked me how I was or if I wanted to join him in doing any other kind of activity. I have contacted this guy multiple times, either to hang out or to go do stuff, and I'm always told, I'm sorry, I'm busy. And this is after literally days of waiting for a reply. Even when he's not busy sitting at home gaming, I still get the same response. With all these clear examples of him not wanting to befriend me, my girlfriend still insists that I give it time, and maybe he will eventually be friends with me. I really don't know what to do at this point, because I can see that it isn't going to work with John in the slightest, but my girlfriend for some reason refuses to see this and insists that we keep trying. So as of today, we're basically not speaking to each other due to a group texting between all four of us, leading to a fallout in communication between John and I. In the conversation, John revealed his true thoughts about me, which I had a feeling was how he felt from the beginning, due to his lack of interest in befriending me. Even seeing this and knowing everything I've been telling my girlfriend about John being the reason that we aren't friends, my girlfriend still insists we give it time and then try to become friends again. But I don't think that will ever happen, due to us trying that for the past 2.5 years and it still hasn't happened. I really don't know where to go from here, because I do care about my girlfriend, but it's like she's not willing to see things from my perspective, and it's got me questioning a lot of things about myself. And these are things that I don't even think are issues, but my girlfriend seems to believe they are. What should I do? It honestly blows my mind that your girlfriend is still trying to make you have some kind of relationship with John. John sounds incredibly toxic. He clearly does not like you, and it sounds like you've literally done everything you can to try and develop some kind of relationship with him. So the way he's acting is completely inappropriate. He also backstabbed you and told all this information about you behind your back, even though you thought you could trust him and confide in him. And honestly, in my opinion, if I was in your shoes, the second John would have done that to me, that would have been the last attempt I would have made to try and be friends with him, regardless of what my girlfriend says. Of course, I'll be cordial and I'll try to be nice and all that stuff, but we will not be anything more than that. There's just no way. So maybe I think you really need to get it through to your girlfriend that John is not a good person that you want to be around. He has clearly done you wrong in the past, and it seems like he's actively trying to push you aside and treat you like garbage, and you do not deserve that in the slightest. If your girlfriend wants to hang out with her sister, go ahead and do that. But otherwise, I just don't see why you should be forced to come along and be best friends with this absolute jerk of a person. I found my husband searching for hidden cameras for the home, and now I'm really not sure what to do, and I'm really freaked out. Here's what happened. So my husband and I have been married for 2 years and together for 4 overall. The relationship has been solid, except for some communication issues, and what sometimes feels like a guilty until proven innocent type of viewpoint that he has towards me. There is no history of cheating, lying, or anything on my end. He is just generally very distrustful of people because he thinks that most humans generally have selfish motives. We were recently driving around to furniture stores, and he asked me to use his phone, which was hooked up to the GPS navigation, to put in the directions for a place that we found but couldn't remember the name of. The store page wasn't on any of his browser tabs, so I went to the browser history, knowing that we had Googled it a few days before. I should mention that neither of us are protective of our phones, and have always been comfortable using each other's for stuff like this, especially while driving. As I was scrolling down, I noticed that he had a cluster of searches for things like small hidden camera for home, or hidden camera for inside of house, and similar search terms. Now, I didn't want to make a thing of it while we were driving, so I just didn't say anything, but intended to ask about it later. Then, the more I thought about it, the more I got an awful feeling, and I still haven't said anything. We've never talked about getting cameras for the inside of our home. He does worry about intruders a lot, but it seems like an alarm system or a Ring doorbell would make much more sense for that kind of thing. There were a couple of times he acted suspicious about me having people in the house while he was gone, despite the fact that I didn't have anybody over. All we had were a few things go missing or even just get misplaced, and he jumped to the conclusion that I had had someone over while he was at work and they probably stole it. Really ridiculous stuff if you ask me. Now, I'm not sure if I should bring it up or act like I didn't see anything and see what he does, if anything. My fear is I don't want to become the suspicious one and make assumptions about why he was searching for that item when it could be something totally benign, like he was talking to someone at work about it and Googled for them. So I'm not sure whether to bring it up, and if so, how do I bring it up in a way where he doesn't have a chance to make up an excuse that it isn't true? Or should I just play dumb while keeping an eye out for anything weird around my home? I'm honestly so confused and I seriously don't know what to do. Yeah, that's really sketchy stuff, but honestly, if you're just now seeing that on his search history, then there's a good chance he probably already has one. Like seriously, some of those hidden cameras are really freaky. They are scary things that can be hidden just about anywhere in the home, and they keep getting more and more sophisticated over time. So it wouldn't be a bad idea to maybe see if you can hire someone to take a look and see if they can use some kind of tools to find any hidden cameras, or even looking on like Amazon to see if there's anything that can help you with that. That way you can check for yourself and see if there's something going on that you really don't like. And I can't think of anybody who wants to be secretly spied on. Like there's no good reason for that. If you want to put up cameras, I think you have the right idea. Put up a Ring doorbell or something similar. So hopefully there's not a secret hidden camera inside your house, because that would be really creepy, and I don't know about you, but that would really set my nerves on fire, knowing that there could be a hidden camera somewhere in the house and I haven't noticed or spotted it yet. My boyfriend is upset with me because I am leaving for a month-long trip to Europe and he can't come along with me. And now he's implying that I'm only going to Europe so I can be away from him just to cheat on him. And I honestly don't know what to do. So my boyfriend and I have been dating for about half a year. He is taking summer classes all summer, so he can't go anywhere. Meanwhile, I got invited to a trip to Europe with my friends. It's a guy friend and a girlfriend. I will be gone for a month, and my boyfriend can't come along, but is feeling super insecure about me leaving, especially with the other men that are going to be there. I already bought tickets and can't stop beating myself up about the fact that I'm leaving on a month-long trip without my partner, and it also really hurts to see that he's upset with me leaving. I would get extreme fear of missing out because I've never traveled anywhere without my parents. This is my first time, but I also love this guy, and I'm not sure if I'm being a bad girlfriend by leaving and choosing my own experiences. I assured him I would never be unfaithful and express my appreciation and love for him, but it doesn't seem to help. I'm worried that he will leave me over this, and I would hate to choose a trip over the relationship. The friend situation is what's making him the most upset. It is a couple and another dude, and he is worried that I'm getting set up on a double date and will be unfaithful to him, and it just doesn't sit right with him, despite me telling him how much I love him and would never cheat on him, and I don't ever have any intention to do so. I'm honestly so hurt and I'm so confused and I don't know what to do. Your boyfriend is being absolutely unreasonable. You're going on a trip to Europe. You're not going on the trip to Europe to cheat on him. He is literally only upset about this because he can't go with you, and so he's now projecting his own insecurities onto you that are, by the way, completely baseless claims that he's making against you for something that you haven't done and that you won't do. You've also only been dating this guy for half a year. Are you really gonna let a boyfriend that you've only been dating for 6 months tell you not to take a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity trip over to Europe with some friends? Like seriously, this is an easy one. And in my opinion, you would be a complete fool to not go to Europe. And you know what? If he breaks up with you, even though you know for a fact you wouldn't and won't do anything on this trip, then seriously, good riddance. Because trust especially in the face of something like this, is so important for everybody involved. So honestly, I would go on this trip and not worry about what your partner's saying in the slightest. I know you love him and you've definitely expressed that, but just know that there's no actual problem with you going to Europe with some friends. And if anyone has a problem with it, it's your boyfriend and his weird baseless claims. An entitled old Karen throws one of her objects at me that she was trying to check out with in the line at TJ Maxx. And not only did she cut my arm in the process, she then tried to lie about the entire situation, painting me as the bad guy and calling me an idiot. Things got so bad that we even had to call the police just to try and mitigate the situation. Here's what happened. So to start things off, I work at TJ Maxx, and yesterday a stupid entitled customer threw a yellow spiky ball that we sell at the store directly at me in a fit of rage. And the one we sell at TJ Maxx must either be made or manufactured in California, because on the backside of the price sticker, it had a Prop 65 sticker, meaning that this product was found to give you cancer or birth defects in California. So to rewind a little bit, this entitled Karen comes to my register. She's about 80 to 85 years old, but really she's old enough to know better than to do what she did. She grabs it from the card and shows me the sticker. She says that she doesn't want the item because she doesn't want to get cancer from it. Thinking I'm being helpful, I politely explained to her that it was just very likely the item wouldn't be giving her cancer, but that the state of California legally has to display those stickers on the items, especially if they're made in that state. For context, we live in North Carolina, so I can't really fault an older person for not knowing California law. This lady then suddenly flips a switch and starts screaming at me. She says, "I said I don't want it. Don't you dare try to force me to take it. I do not want cancer." Then, suddenly out of nowhere, this entitled Karen hauls back and throws this spiky sphere directly at me. Now, these things weigh less than a pound, but it's a ball covered in metal spikes, and it was thrown pretty hard at me from a distance of maybe 6 feet. So the spot where it hit my arm has some dotted scrapes on it, and where it rolled down my arm also has a line of scrapes. Honestly, my cat has done worse, and it's already fading, but still, I couldn't believe that she did that. Now, because it was still early in the workday, the line wasn't very long, so when she started screaming at me, it went quiet. And so the associates in makeup, handbags, and jewelry, as well as the few customers around us, all stopped what they were doing to see what was up, meaning I had about 12 witnesses to her throwing the item at me in the first place. And it's right about then that I'm pretty sure this old entitled Karen realized what she had done, because she went quiet, she dropped her face, and started unloading the cart. But I wasn't going to take this sitting down, as I escalated this to a point where the police got involved to deal with this entitled Karen. My coworker had come right down as the ball was thrown, so she got on the headset right when it was thrown to get the manager, who also came running. In the melee, the manager misheard and thought I had punched a customer or something like that, but we set the situation right. When she got up to the front, she asked the old lady why'd she'd thrown it, and the old lady says to her, "I told the little idiot I didn't want to get cancer from it, and she tried to make me buy it. If she had just shut up and done her job, I wouldn't have thrown it at her." Now, up until that point, I was fixing to just let it go. I was going to refuse her service, and the manager probably would have asked the lady to leave without service as well, but she decided to call me an idiot, and then act like I was forcing her to buy a cancer-causing object. I very quickly told the manager all I did was explain why the sticker was on the object in an effort to ease the customer's concerns. I was never trying to make her buy it, but the entitled old Karen said, "You're a liar, you little brat." And then she claimed that I wanted her to no longer be alive, which is honestly crazy. My manager then asked me what I would like to do next, since she sees that I'm injured. I told her to please call the police, because I'm not about to be assaulted by anyone, but especially not for something as stupid as this. And wouldn't you guess it, the entitled old Karen begins to beg and cry, pleading with us not to call the police. The entire time she's wailing on and on about how I'm the one in the wrong. I was trying to make her do things that she didn't want, and I was just a mean person in general. But here's the kicker. She is still unloading her shopping cart. This entitled Karen seriously thought she was going to be able to purchase her items. She even asked me why I wasn't ringing her items up. Anyways, the cops show up, and there's 2 cruisers and 4 cops. One of them takes me to the side, and the other one takes the entitled Karen over to the other side. My manager takes the other 2 to the office to show them the security camera footage. Now, here's the thing. I had witnesses and I had an injury, so it was kind of cut and dry. The cops asked me if I'm sure I want to press charges, and I asked them if I actually had a chance of the lady getting punished, or would a judge just let her go no because of her age. The cop said I actually have a pretty decent chance, and based on the old lady's conduct, a judge probably wouldn't be too favorable, especially considering that I'm pregnant in a county that's red as a fire truck. They told me she opened right up to them and admitted that she threw it at me. And a few minutes later, when they read her the Miranda rights, she admitted to having thrown the ball again. They said that her confession, coupled with the camera footage and all the eyewitness accounts, the judge might not even need to speak with me. They took pictures of my arm, got my contact information, and said I might get a call, I might not get a call. Because it was Tuesday, this entitled Karen would probably get a quick bail hearing, but she'd probably just be released on low bail or no bail. Chances are, even if her lawyer sucks, she'll probably get a slap on the wrist. And to top it all off, I made the cop laugh when I asked him if I could do the wrist slapping, preferably with the same item she threw at me. What in the world is wrong with people? This lady went from like 0 to 100 really quickly. This entitled Karen literally straight up threw a fastball at this lady, all because they were just trying to help them out. Like, there's no reason for that. There's no reason for people to get hurt, all because this entitled Karen wants to be weird. So hopefully this entitled Karen got more than just a slap on the wrist, because you can't go around hitting people like that and expect to get away with it. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Our neighbors of 4 years have turned their front yard into a junkyard, and I'm so tired of looking at it, I seriously don't know what to do. So we live in a cul-de-sac and are pretty friendly with our neighbors. The house to the left of us, a family of 5, do not maintain their property in the slightest. The side yard that borders ours is disgusting. The man is a hoarder, so he is constantly trash picking and keeps it all in the side yard for us and anyone that visits us to see. We went as far as spending over $1,000 installing a privacy line of trees that haven't grown much, by the way, just to have some kind of line. And honestly, everyone else on our block makes sure that our properties look nice. We spend time, energy, and money to do this. Aside from the junk, which includes old chairs, bicycles, basketball nets, broken trampolines, huge piles of brush and weeds, as well as random metal things that no one would even know what it is. Aside from all of that, there is standing water, and now a tent, meaning 4 posts and a tarp, has been put up. It literally looks like a homeless shelter. The side of the house is covered in Lowe's Tyvek, and this is from when he started a project 3 years ago. My husband and I don't know the best way to approach it. The thing is, we want to remain on good terms, and we don't want to hurt anyone's feelings. However, they know it looks bad. They even joke about it looking horrible, and we have also insinuated that yes, it looks really bad, but they don't do anything about it. I want to call the township, and my husband wants to have a conversation, but we don't really know what to say. Also, as a side note, time and money is not an issue for these people. They are constantly out getting drinks and doing things, as well as buying all sorts of things. I swear, every other day she is posting pictures of her getting drinks and food with her friends, which irritates me even more. She gets her nails done, her lips done, she gets tattoos, and she goes to the gym. But if you have time to do all of that stuff, why not just clean up your yard as well? It's all so very frustrating, and I seriously don't know what to do. Yeah, that's really disgusting. The fact that you're living next to someone who doesn't take care of their house, and they just don't care about the outward appearance of things, is really toxic in my opinion. Like, sure, if you want to collect things and you want to have some kind of system where you refurbish cars or junk metal or stuff like that, there's a time and a place to do that. But storing all of that stuff on your front yard for the entire neighborhood and your fellow neighbors to have to deal with is honestly so weird to me. And it's so inappropriate as well. I think it's really a catch-22 at this point, because if you're good enough friends with them, there is a chance where you might be able to have some kind of conversation with them, but it really depends on how they would react. Is it someone where it's worth having some kind of conversation and being like, look, you're lowering everyone else's property value. Is there any way we can help you clean up? And then kind of just go from there. Maybe there's a future where they might be willing to take some help from you as well as someone else you know, and just help them clean out what they don't need. Or you could even use the side of the house as an excuse to be like, oh look, your house isn't done yet. Is there any way I could help you finish it up? And then maybe weasel your way into also mentioning, hey, there's a bunch of garbage on your front lawn. Could we also get rid of that? But obviously in a nice way, because what I said I think would probably come off as really rude. And then maybe go from there. I think the original poster has the right idea though as well. You could just call the township and see if they could take care of it. Getting a call or a note or some kind of violation from the township very well might be the thing to get them off their butts and start cleaning up the junkyard that is their front yard. So hopefully this all works out for you, because I can't imagine having to live next to that every single day money and still trying to maintain some kind of property value in the long run. My girlfriend left me after 6 years of being together, and I am now beyond devastated and I seriously don't know what to do. So I met this girl, we'll call her Kate, that's not her real name, while I was going to college. She had a mutual friend who introduced us, and we headed off on Snapchat and went on a movie date. This girl really breathed new life into me, and a few months later, I asked her to be my girlfriend. Things were awkward at first, but a few months later, we admitted that we'd fallen for each other. We were seeing each other every weekend, and sometimes during the week to watch movies, go on road trips, or simply just to be in each other's company. Life was amazing. However, she was a rave girl. She loved to go out with her single friends on the weekends to go to concerts and events. I was always anxious, but I trusted her, and I never told her that she couldn't go. I really wanted her to enjoy herself. We took a lot of vacations together. We went to Italy, Spain, and then the Netherlands together, sometimes even with her family. We had a lot of memories, and I felt so welcomed by her family. When I was 21, I was diagnosed with a rare spine condition. Since I was 18, I had a lot of back pain, and I started to feel my legs lose coordination. It turned out to be a cancerous tumor inside my spinal cord, and it had done some damage. I got surgery, learned how to walk again, and got radiotherapy. I knew I had to beat this to get back to her side and to help build our future together. She was so supportive of me, I couldn't thank her enough, and I wanted to spend the rest of my life with this girl. However, I noticed she never wanted to go on any dates with me. She just wanted to sit in her bedroom and watch TV together at the weekends, or just go out with her friends. It's like she never wanted to have fun with me. She made such a big effort with them, but I never mentioned it. I never stopped her from having her fun. Fast forward to last week, and she had been going out multiple times at the weekends and didn't have any time for me. She went out clubbing 6 times in the space of a month, and I hadn't seen her for nearly 3 weeks. I asked her to plan a dinner together, and she was very sarcastic about it. On Valentine's Day, I surprised her with flowers and a box of her favorite chocolates, and she got nothing for me. I was feeling deeply neglected, but I was still madly in love with her. She promised that she wasn't going out for 2 weeks, but I got a message before I went to her house. She said to me, "You're gonna hate me, but I've been invited to a works night out tomorrow." So I said to her, "It's fine, I'll just see you tonight," bearing in mind that we were just gonna sit in and watch TV together. The fact that she's had more days out with her friends in the past month than we've had in the last 2 years was honestly crushing me. She seemed distant that night, but we still held each other and talked and all the other stuff we normally do. Saturday morning came and I was ready to leave, but I couldn't get a response out of her. She was buried in her phone, so I kissed her goodbye and I left. Later that night, I get the awful "we need to talk" message, right as she was going out. This filled me with immense anxiety. She then said she will do it when she's sober the next day. I thought that it was a horrible thing to do. She struck fear in my heart and left me with it all night. The next day, I go to her house and we talk. She was hugging me and tearful. I knew what was about to happen. She told me that she loves me, but she's not in love with me. I broke down. I had to leave. I went to my car and I started screaming. After everything I've been through these past 3 years, things just keep getting worse for me. I go home and I was howling. My whole world was falling apart. I spent a quarter of my life with this girl and now it's over. She said she was feeling this way for 6 months now and never told me. In my head, that just meant she checked out of the relationship before leaving me, so she's pretty much over it. It took her less than 12 hours to remove me from her bios. It crushed my soul. My chest felt tight, and it was as if I was carrying a block of ice in it. It's been 9 days since she's left, and I gave my all to this girl, and I would do anything to make her happy. She even admitted that she didn't want to go on dates with me, as she didn't see the point. Since she is an extremely attractive girl, it won't be hard for her to find a new man. The thought of her with someone else is absolutely destroying me inside. I feel as if she is toying with me. She sends me a Snapchat after a few days of no contact. I reply, and she just ignores me. She's turned so cold towards me. I have literally never been so low in my life. I can't get her out of my head. She's all I ever think about. I try to keep myself busy, but I can't escape the bad thoughts. I never did anything wrong. I wasn't controlling. I never glanced at another woman. I was supportive and loving, and I still lost everything. She was my world, and I doubt she's coming back. My confidence is at an all-time low. I don't think I'm attractive, and I can't see me ever getting over her. I'm afraid that I'll be alone forever now, and I seriously don't know what to do. From the sounds of it, it really does seem like you're in the thick of it. You just broke up with this girl that obviously meant a lot to you, and it sounds like she did this in a way that was really, really toxic. And honestly, I'm just so sorry you had to deal with that. It's not fair for you in the slightest, because from the sounds of it, you really did everything right. right. You tried to make sure she was happy, you tried to make sure that you weren't controlling, and you tried to connect with her on multiple occasions. From the sounds of it, you were a good boyfriend. You probably did everything right, and it doesn't sound like you were going behind her back, and you weren't doing anything to try and cause her to check out of the relationship. So at least let that be your silver lining in the situation. But overall, maybe just give it some time. This situation is obviously very fresh in your life, so it's understandable that you're really going through it. And hopefully one day, with all things considered, you can move forward and find happiness in your life again. Because honestly, you deserve it. I caught my girlfriend texting her ex-boyfriend, as well as the fact that she was deleting the history just to try and hide it from me. And now I seriously don't know what to do. So I had been casually seeing a girl for 4 months until we decided to make it official and exclusive at the start of this month. Things have been going great. However, one day while I was over at her place, I had seen she had gotten a phone call from her ex-boyfriend, which she brushed off as him being crazy and wanting her back. There was an incident a few days after we became official where she checked my phone and found DMs from back in November, which is when we first started talking, where I exchanged some flirtatious messages with someone I knew from college. She blew up at this situation, as well as with a few other DMs that she found from that same time period, and basically considered ending our relationship right then and there. She was upset because when she asked about some of these other girls in the past, I just described them as being friends. Would I be hurt about that too? Sure. However, there was plenty of evidence and even more recent interactions with those same women where I either ignored them or gave them dry responses. Her checking my phone like that, however, got me a little suspicious of her. And I know it's toxic, but a few days later, I decided to check her phone to see what she might be hiding. My curiosity about her ex, given that she had received calls from him, led me to search for his name, only for me to find messages talking about how she actually saw him late in January and even hung out with him to celebrate his birthday. She wrote to a friend saying that they're going out and they're getting some food, which she explained meant her, the ex, and a large group of friends. However, I really wasn't sure what to believe, given that she had lied about them hanging out to begin with. Regardless, this had happened before we were officially dating and exclusive. So regardless of how upset I was, I decided to let it go, given that I myself wasn't super clean before we started dating either. Flash forward to a week later, and she's been acting really strange with me, saying that she's feeling off and sees us differently. She starts talking about how her timeline in life was to get married and have kids in the next 2 years, and mine is in the next 4 or 5, so she doesn't feel good about waiting that long, which is totally understandable stuff, but we did discuss it and put it behind us. Later that same day, I'm having friends over for a housewarming, and she gets a little too intoxicated and goes to bed early. By the time I say bye to my friends and clean up a bit, it's around 1:30 in the morning. I walk into my room, and I see her asleep with her phone just out of reach from her hand. I then notice that she's gotten a few text messages from her ex. I know it's wrong, but it was so late that my intrusive thoughts got the better of me. I see 2 messages sent at 1:30, responding to a message that she had sent that I couldn't see because she deleted it. She actually went as far as to delete these messages from her recently deleted folder as well. He was using that iMessage feature where you reply to a specific message, so I could see that she had sent him something that night, but I unfortunately could not see the contents of the message. I lost my cool and searched more through her messages to find recent messages from her friends telling her to block her ex, and even a message from back in January where she was complaining that her and the ex didn't spend any quality time that night, if you know what I mean, all because he found out about me. The worst part about all of this was that I replied to the ex-boyfriend with a question mark, and I sent it through her phone. And I did that because I had no context of any of the conversations I was seeing. He then proceeds to message me back asking why I'm up so late, and if I plan on picking him up or should he Uber to her place. Her ex-boyfriend was so casual about this as well, asking for an Uber or trying to set up some kind of plan. It all just really set me off. So I continued to play along and I asked him to Uber. Well, as it goes along, we're actually at my place, not hers. And by the time he arrived there, it was already 4 in the morning. At that point, I just put her phone down and I saw the string of calls he had made after arriving. Is it my proudest moment? No, but I regret nothing. The next morning when I confronted my girlfriend about it, she says the usual that it's not what it looks like. She claims she only texted him to share some recent changes in her life that would legally allow her to get married in the next 2 years. She then tells me that she kept talking to said ex as he was sharing his plans to buy a house soon, and that he apparently told her that he wanted wanted her back and that she could move in, and in 2 years they could be married and have kids. It turns out this legal issue that she had was the main reason why she and her ex broke up, because they couldn't get married because of it. She's claiming though that all that doesn't matter to her and that she loves me so much and that she'd rather be with me than follow the timeline that she had set in mind. But none of that really sits right with me anymore. And to be honest, I don't know how I can trust anything she says now. Honestly, writing this all out shows me what I should do, but I do really love her. And outside of all of this messy stuff, we really do make each other happy. We've spoken on end about our futures together. I even met her parents, and there were plans for her to meet mine. Is it possible to move past something like this? Could you ever trust someone again after they did something like that? I'm struggling to feel like I ever could, and I seriously don't know what to do. For me, this is an absolute deal breaker. If I was in your shoes, I would be breaking up with her. This is not something I'm gonna take sitting down. She's going behind your back and talking to her ex-boyfriend, and I seriously don't believe a single thing that she's saying. So hopefully with whatever decision you make, I really hope you think about your own good, because it sounds like she had some other plans in mind, and those plans absolutely did not involve you. An entitled Karen claims that I'm flashing gang signs around, even though I'm speaking in sign language. But despite that explanation, she still called the cops on us and tried to have us arrested. But things backfired on this entitled Karen almost instantly, and it truly was a sight to behold. Here's what happened. So this tale takes place decades ago, before the rise of the internet, before cell phones. In fact, phones were in the process of shedding their tails, so to speak. I was a girl fast approaching her double digits. Months earlier, my silent world had exploded into sound with the invention of a pair of tiny battery-powered devices that boosted sound called hearing aids. Before this, one made do wearing earpieces connected to a black box worn on the chest using a harness. These devices had a lot of issues and didn't work well with me. They would provide too much feedback. My 10th birthday was on the horizon, and my parents surprised me by renting the party room of my favorite pizza restaurant, where most of the staff knew sign language. The restaurant is set up with the party room in the back corner. On the opposite side is the arcade room. There's no door between the party room and the arcade room, and this will be important later. Below these rooms was a standard restaurant floor. Booth after booth lined the walls, and the midsection was divided into two parts. The front part was sunken in, much like a 70s area conversation pit. A central circular table held a fireplace, while gaming systems lined the tables against the wall. Stuff like the Nintendo Entertainment System, the N64, Sega, Atari, PlayStation, stuff like that. The section behind that was a regular table and chair seating. Both sections were rentable for parties. We were setting up in the party room when an entitled Karen appeared. I saw her talking to my uncle and didn't think anything about it, as I was in the process of studying my word list. At this point, I was learning to form noises into words. I could make sounds, just not actual words at this point. A light shoulder tap got my attention, and my cousin signed that my uncle wanted my attention. I go to him, and he signed that this entitled Karen wanted the party room and was offering to switch with us. I asked where her section was, and it was the back section of the middle area, and I agreed to switch. We switch, and I overhear the entitled Karen complaining about gang signs. And now she was not sure of switching simply because she was afraid of violence. But nonetheless, her entitled kid wanted the party room. So we went ahead and switched, and this put us right next to the arcade. A bit later, I'm having my speech lesson with my dad, and the entitled kid of this entitled Karen, as well as her friends, try to dash through to get to the arcade. But when they are told that they can't do that, they run off and cry to their entitled Karen of a mother. I'm on my dad's lap, with one hand on my chest and my other on his, trying to mimic the same motions his chest make as he says the word on my list, and I'm struggling with a word. And that's when we hear a screech. The entitled Karen is pointing at us and talking about how we're using gang signs, and talking about all kinds of immoral things, and how her husband was going to arrest us all when his backup arrived. At this point, my uncle stood up. Now he's a huge beefcake of a man who is a big teddy bear on the inside. He towers well over her and glares at her. His mouth is moving, and I later learned he was telling her that I was deaf and I was learning to speak, and the language I was speaking was sign language, and it was not gang signs. And no, her spawn and her friends were not going to disrupt our party. They can go around us instead. He didn't care if it was too far, and her stupid kid was not able to walk the distance. At that, red and blue lights started flashing outside, and the entitled Karen looked incredibly smug. The cops rush in, and her face as my uncle greeted them was priceless. My uncle was the police police chief. He told this entitled Karen she had a choice. Either she could wear a pair of silver bracelets and stay a night in a 5-star lodging, or she could explain to her entitled child how he cannot disrupt our party and has to walk around us to get to the arcade, while also leaving us alone. The cops are dispersed, and my uncle gives an assignment to 2 of the cops to stay around. And it's a good thing that he did, because this entitled Karen ended up earning herself a pair of shiny silver bracelets and a night in a 5-star lodging. The first thing that happened was that the entitled kid and his friends destroyed the salad bar. Next, he tried to make off with the N64 and then nearly succeeded with the PlayStation. He also got caught trying to steal my new Hot Wheels garage playset twice. I think I even overheard her calling me stupid and asking why I wasn't home yet. This entitled Karen also tried to skip out on paying for the party room, in which she actually never bought the party package. And to top it all off, her husband wasn't even a cop, so they ran the evidence against her, and eventually she got locked up. And looking back, it truly is awesome to see how this entitled Karen's plan backfired on her so spectacularly, because she truly had it coming. What an awful person. How on earth could you seriously look at a small child and try to pretend like they're throwing up gang signs when they're just trying to speak sign language? Like, that is unbelievably rude. Like, you seriously have to be not only stupid, but willfully stupid to not know that this is what's going on. And even if you assumed it was gang signs of some kind, you don't just go up to someone and be like, hey, your kid is flashing gang signs in, I don't know, Chuck E. Cheese's or something like that. I mean, that's what this place sounded like, to be completely honest. So I'm really glad that this entitled Karen got put in jail. She clearly was lying to a police officer, and she obviously was trying to get away with stuff that she really shouldn't have gotten away with. And in the end, she really did get exactly what was coming to her. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Today, I messed up by letting a lady sit in our hotel lobby while not realizing that she was actually doing a stakeout to try and determine if her husband was cheating on her with another woman. And I've never been more embarrassed to pass off something to my coworker in my life. Here's what happened. So to start things out, I want to say first and foremost that this was entirely my own fault. On this particular night, I was working a 3 to 11 for the first time at a new property. I was a bit frazzled to say the least, and when I get frazzled, boy do I start making questionable calls. Fast forward, and it's about 30 minutes until the end of my shift, and there's a room full of shenanigans going on. There were quite a few interesting situations that came into the hotel right at the last second, but none of them held a flame to the woman I had to deal with, who is in fact the subject of the story. She enters in and walks to the lobby. She's got a big smile and a kind voice. She says to me, I'm gonna be honest with you, I do not have a reservation. I don't need one. I'm actually just waiting for my husband. I'll even buy a coffee if I could just sit in the lobby and wait. And honestly, in retrospect, people, I just needed a win. I just needed to please someone. I wanted to feel hospitable again. She seemed normal for the most part, but this is where my mistake starts. I cut her off and I say, ma'am, we do have free coffee and we have a place to sit. If you won't be too long, I don't see an issue. And looking back on that, I feel absolutely idiotic, especially when she continues her story. She goes on to say, I'm waiting for my husband because he's cheating on me. They are staying next door and I'm going to catch them. When she finally finished, I had to backtrack. I said, okay, ma'am, I offered you a place to sit, but this sounds like it can escalate into something completely different. So I need to establish some ground rules. For one, I need you to keep quiet. You don't bother anybody else. And secondly, you do not bring your husband, his mistress, or anyone else in here to have a confrontation. And thirdly, you can't stay here for more than an hour. Thankfully, she kept her promise. She sat quietly and sipped her coffee. She didn't bother anyone. She just stared out the window, waiting for her husband to drive by. The night audit arrived, and I informed them I brought this mess into our lobby, and I would be happy to hang out until she left, or I could even escort her out of the lobby. The night auditor, who's also a kind soul, assured me that she can stay and it won't be an issue. Now at this point, I'm awake in my bed, hoping that my night auditor isn't catching grief. I messed up, but I just wanted to do something nice for someone tonight, just to atone for the crimes against hospitality that I witnessed tonight overall. And just like me, it's always in these moments of weakness that I invite chaos into the equation. So hopefully nothing bad came of this situation, because the last thing I would ever want to do is to bring unnecessary stress onto my coworkers. Yeah, that sounds like a messy situation. You thought this lady was just gonna try and stick around and maybe hang out for a little bit, and you chimed in right as she was explaining, thinking that this would be a simple solution. But nope, you've got somebody who's trying to catch her husband cheating. Like, this is not gonna be fun in the slightest. honest. And thankfully, we actually have an update to this story, and we know exactly what happened. And according to the night auditor, nothing happened. This lady left after an hour, and she left calmly at that. So at least there's that kind of silver lining. So thankfully, nothing really came of it, and you didn't disturb or throw your coworker under the bus. And considering how this could have gone, I think everybody got off easy, and everyone should be lucky there wasn't some massive confrontation inside the lobby. My best friend is accusing me of gaslighting him because I gave him relationship advice about a girl that I also liked. And fast forward to present day, and I'm now with that girl, and he is upset with me, and I seriously don't know what to do. So to start things out, both me and my friend share a lot of interests, and we met each other our freshman year of college. Due to our courses the next year, we met this girl, which is now my girlfriend the next year. She and a lot of other people often said that we were like brothers, which was also true to some extent, given we have a lot of similarities in our personality and interests. Anyways, I instantly grew a liking for my girlfriend 3 months after meeting her. I guess she picked up on it because she once called me alone to talk about something and made sure I just wanted to be friends. I was heartbroken, but she's such an awesome person. I value the friendship even more after that. I didn't say I liked her because I knew she would have lessened our contact, thinking I wouldn't be able to handle it. I think she has mentioned this to my friends also at some point. I'm not sure when though. 2 years later, and my friend tells me he likes her and is going to ask her out. Now I was devastated. I knew he had a thing for her, but just not sure how big it was. They talked for hours that night, and apparently she told him that she wanted to focus on her career, and in an ideal world, she would have given him another year to get to know him more, and that she would hate if she had to make a decision now and regretted it later. When my friend told me this, I talked to her, and I told her that my friend's an amazing guy. If she really likes him, she should go ahead, but only if she was sure about it. She told me that she wanted to focus on her career right now, and just hopes that she doesn't regret it later. My friend also knew that I talked to her after him, and she then made it clear to him that they should be just friends and not have any hopes attached to it, because otherwise she wouldn't be able to hang out freely with him. I then talked to my friend that probably it's for the best because they had such opposing personalities. Maybe they wouldn't have worked out as something more. Then I told him that he would get over this and reference one of my earlier heartbreaks and how I got over it. Now, I'm not going to go into the details because my friend might see this, but next year, some situations arose due to which I was able to spend more time with this girl. We shared a lot of moments together, and I let her know that I was romantically interested. She thought about it for about 3 to 4 days, during which I assumed she discussed this with a couple of her close friends, my friends included. She finally said yes, and we got together. Both of them still remained and are close friends after she rejected him. She says she admires a lot of the qualities about him, which is understandable. He is a smart and kind guy. I also sometimes envy how he's able to put a little effort into his job and still be good at it. He has acknowledged to her that their friendship is lopsided. He also reduced contact with her once he knew that we were together, but that was after we got together, so I guess he still had some feelings for her left. Fast forward to 3 to 4 months later, and now my friend is accusing me of gaslighting him because according to him, if I liked her from the beginning, it was not my place to talk to him or to her for that matter, and that he can no longer believe anything I ever said. I tried to convince him that I never badmouthed him and that he could talk to my girlfriend if he wants. I just didn't want to tell him because then it would have been like we're competing for her, and I didn't want to put my girlfriend in that spot 2 years ago where she would have had to choose between two people. That wouldn't have been fair. So now my friend's angry with me, and I seriously don't know what to do. It really sounds like your friend has sour grapes about the situation. And no, I don't think you were gaslighting him. I think you were just trying to be a good friend and let him have his space to try and ask this girl out. Like, you did the right thing in my opinion of not saying, hey, I also kind of like her. Can you even imagine how awkward that would be for this woman? Not only does she have 2 guys that like her, which is like, okay, that's fine, but also these 2 guys are best friends. And if you reveal that, yeah, you like her as well, then in my opinion, it absolutely would have escalated into something super toxic. So by not saying anything, you really were trying to save feelings. Also, let's look at the facts here. The original poster's girlfriend clearly likes him. A year later, she found herself in a different spot, and she was ready to have a relationship in her life. And he just so happened to be the person to step in. And so I really don't think there's any gaslighting going on. Considering the circumstances of when the original poster's friend asked her out, it just was not good timing. And to me, it really seems like this supposed best friend is just really jealous that his best friend got with this girl before he could. And at the end of the day, there's nothing you can do about that. I think you did the best you could to try and have your friend have some kind of happiness in his life, despite the fact that she turned him down. So honestly, there's not much you can do about it. I think this might be a situation where everything's kind of inevitable, and your friend would probably be mad at whatever guy did end up getting with this girl. So if anything, maybe just let it go. Just be happy with what you have and try to move forward as best as you can. My parents don't take my school assignments seriously and almost caused me to lose points on my grade simply because I was trying to take this seriously. Here's what happened. So I'm sure a lot of people who've taken childcare classes in school have had this experience before, all while you're carrying a child around with you for a week. My family members were absolute jerks about it, and I was very, very scared that I would get a bad grade because of this. I've also heard of awful stories about people who took this class and lose grades due to jerks that wanted a good laugh. So I was expecting for this part of the class, as well as this section, that I would be carrying a flower baby or babies around for the whole week. For those who might not know what this is, it's basically where students are assigned with a bag of flour depending on your luck. You get a healthy 5-pound to 10-pound bag of flour or a premature 3-pound baby, and you would then have to take care of that bag of flour. It sounds silly, but it's all for the class. Now, I was fortunate enough to only have the 5-pound one to carry around with me, which I'm supposed to care for and treat like a child, and I really went into mama bear mode. And this also has to do with the fact that I was a babysitter for my younger siblings and my cousins, so caring for this wasn't going to be that hard, or so I thought. I gave my child a hat to wear and even wrapped it up with an extra sweater that I no longer wear. In fact, I even get extra credit for keeping it warm during the winter. When I walked into my next class, I get the usual whisper and giggle about carrying a bag of flour around, as most childcare students would get. So I was extra careful and basically had it sitting on my lap the entire time. And this was all the way up until gym class. I asked my trusted friend Anna to babysit it for me and that I will then come back for it later. Fast forward and I'm finally getting home, and immediately my parents are staring at me like I'm crazy, simply because I'm carrying a bag of flour around in my arms, despite the fact that they signed the permission slip which would allow me to carry it around for a week. My grandma then says to me, "What's that? Just toss it in the garbage. It's going to leak all over the place." I said to her that this was for my class assignment and I have to take care of it for a week. My parents said, "Yeah, sure, you're just making things up so you can carry weird things around to fit in with bad people." Now, after they said that, I just ignored them and I headed upstairs to my room to do my homework. I leave for a bit to eat dinner and I come back to hear giggling from my room. I open my room to see my entitled siblings throwing my flower baby like a ball. I freak out and I grab it, telling them I'm going to lose points from my class if it rips open, and they'll have to vacuum the carpet. They then take off running to tell on me for yelling at them, to which I unsurprisingly get yelled at, as well as for taking the stupid assignment too seriously and not letting them throw around my flower baby for just a little bit. Yeah, it's crazy. So I respond to them and say, "Okay, fine. Go buy them a bag of flour and let them throw it around. And if the bag explodes covering the carpet with flour, I'm not vacuuming it up." I then got an earful for over an hour on being respectful of your elders and that I shouldn't talk back to anybody. And this is all when I was just trying to be honest about my entitled sisters and what they were doing. But a week passed by and I made it through without my child leaking or getting ripped in the process. In fact, for another student one time, a bully snatched their flower baby and threw it off the second floor balcony, only for it to land and explode on the head of a freshman walking by. The student got a new replacement bag, while the bully was suspended for a while, and the freshman was traumatized as well. Honestly, I'm just glad the assignment is done, and I'm glad that I don't have to carry around that stupid flower baby anymore. Your parents were being absolutely ridiculous. Like, not only did they sign the permission slip for you to do this assignment, but then they suddenly have this selective amnesia where they're like, "We don't remember doing that. You're just trying to fit in with bad people." Like, come on, are you serious right now? What kid in their right mind would carry around a bag of flour to try and fit in? If anything, they're just gonna get bullied for doing that. So good for you for at least getting through the week without losing your flower baby. That would have been obnoxious to deal with, and I can't imagine losing points on your GPA all because your siblings wanted to throw it around like a basketball. My girlfriend really wants to get married with me, but I don't feel ready, and at this point, I don't know what to do. So I've been with my girlfriend for 2 years now, but she has been hinting that she wants to get married with me since the first year. I love her, but I told her that we are too young to marry, that right now is not the time to think about it, but I also have another reason not to marry that I haven't told her. I've always been very introverted introverted and shy. I only had one teenage relationship in high school that lasted like 3 months, and it never got anywhere. And I've never been with another girl since then until I started dating her. And that was right when I turned 21. She is my first real relationship. And the thought of settling down with her makes me comfortable and happy, but I'm also worried that I will become bitter for the rest of my life, knowing that I just wasted my life taking such a big decision so soon and with none of the experience. My girlfriend has had a lot of relationships in the past, and I don't blame her. Maybe she is ready to settle down with me after all of her dating life, but I don't feel that way. I didn't even have a dating life. I know some people marry their first love and they live perfectly good marriages, and I'm happy for them. I just feel like that's not for me because it just feels wrong, like skipping an incredibly important part of your life, like starting to work at 6 and missing your entire childhood. It breaks my heart because I do love her. She is a really nice girl, and I've grown a lot alongside her. I can really see us both getting married in the future, but just not right now. I don't really know anymore what to do. How do I know if she is the best for me if I haven't dated literally anybody else? I should be happy for finding the one so early in my life, and I do, but I don't at the same time. It makes me feel so guilty and selfish to think this way because I can already feel people thinking, so you got a perfectly good relationship and you're throwing it away just because you don't feel ready yet? And I feel like I'm going to regret whatever path I decide. If I stay with her and I get married, I feel like I will become bitter. And if I leave, I would be leaving a good relationship just to mess around and finding out that she really was the one for me. Right now, she's telling me that I have to ask for permission to her parents soon, but permission for what? Permission to date her after almost dating her for 3 years? Or is she setting me up to ask her parents for her hand? Also, her plans and my plans are very different. She is planning to stay in the country, and I'm planning on leaving the country. She doesn't want kids, but I do. I feel like all that stuff needs to be considered as well. What should I do? First off, I think you need to make it very clear that you're not ready to get married. You need to communicate that clearly to your girlfriend like right now, because she really wants to get married, and it looks like she's really trying to lead the conversation in that direction. But you have made it very clear that right now, at this stage of your life of only being 23 years old, you're not ready to get married yet. And that is completely reasonable in my opinion. It is not irrational to pump the brakes and be like, wait a second, I don't think I'm ready for this. If anything, I think that shows a lot of maturity, and it shows that you're taking this seriously. So no, you should not feel forced to get married. And honestly, I don't think there's anything wrong with trying to figure things out first before taking this very vital and important step. And it's also really unfair that your girlfriend is almost pushing this on you. And it really does seem kind of rushed. Like this seems like it's happening all of a sudden overnight. So I think having a conversation and telling her exactly how you feel really will be the deciding factor of if you stay with her or if you have to go. Because towards the end of this post, you said it yourself. You both have some very different plans for what you want out of life. And I completely agree. These are things that absolutely need to be considered, especially when you're considering getting married. My entitled husband claims that he's not cheating on me, despite the fact that he goes partying with a bunch of women every night after work. And even though I beg him to stop going to these girls' bars after work, he claims that he doesn't want to be held back by anyone in his life, not even his own wife. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So for a bit of background, my husband and I migrated to Japan and have settled here. Our child attends school and already has an established support system for his special needs. My husband works full-time and I work part-time while the kid is in school. Everything works out well and we are quite happy. The work culture here is very stressful. As my husband progresses in his career, the more stressful his job becomes. I understand that, as even my part-time job is quite demanding. So people here would go out downtown with their coworkers and drink themselves into oblivion. I rarely attend these sorts of things, but my husband loves it. So here's the thing. Around 5 years ago, my husband went out again with his coworkers and was dumped in front of our door by his best friend at around 4:30 in the morning. He was so drunk, he was just lying there in the front puking. In fact, him puking was the sound that I woke up to. While I was taking care of him, I saw some text messages coming in from his phone from some girl asking if he got home okay. Upon further inspection, it was from a girl working in a girls' bar. Being a naive introvert, I don't really know what happens in places like this. So I googled it, and it's your typical girls' bar, where men pay to flirt and drink with young girls in scandalous outfits. Whether or not there would be anything more than that, I guess depends on the girl. This broke my heart. It was our kid's birthday, so I had to get the kid out and celebrate celebrate by ourselves since my husband could barely stand up. I confronted him, and he admitted that he's been going to these clubs about 4 to 5 times now, but he insisted that there was nothing going on and that it wasn't allowed for the men to touch the girls in any kind of way. He wasn't in any other type of relationship with another girl, so he doesn't think that he's cheating or doing anything bad. He does admit that he's taking it too far by being in contact with the bar girls, but still insists that nothing more is happening than that. I told him this thing hurts me so much, and I don't want him going to these kind of bars anymore. But guess what happened when I said that? He continued doing it. I actually did not try to catch him or anything like that, but every time he goes out, I felt triggered with anxiety and distress, and it would often lead to a fight. To be honest, this is the only thing that we fight about. He thinks I'm suffocating him and not allowing him to go party and relieve stress, which he feels is unfair. He says that he will never allow anyone to jail him. There was even this instance where we went camping with some friends that we just met. While drinking, he decided to tell everyone how I was crazy and I was smothering him because I would always start a huge fight whenever he goes out to party. And when he did this, I felt so embarrassed because I barely knew the people that were there, and he was airing out our dirty laundry for whatever reason. Last year, we were scheduled to go back to our home country for the holidays. My husband went to go party again as an end of the year company celebration, and when he came back, he was sick, and as a result, I got sick and our kid got sick. Our kid's fever was so high, I was considering taking him to the hospital. We were able to get through it, but then a friend of mine told me something. They said they saw my husband going into a girls' club. I checked around and I was able to confirm that he did it again. I'm so livid that not only is he still doing what I've begged him to stop doing, but also his actions have led to our kid getting sick. But the kid was looking forward to our family vacation, so even though I felt so broken and betrayed, I decided to suck it all up and forgive my husband for now. I thought maybe, just maybe, he'll try to be better and we can work this out during vacation. But you know what? We didn't do that. My husband decided to party even harder, drinking every single night. He would do whatever he pleased, and I would be just behind him picking up after him. I am so tired of this, and I've been thinking, maybe my kid and I would be better off without him. I feel myself checking out of this marriage. Then he decided he's gonna go out and party again, and I just snapped. I got so angry at him. I was so distressed I felt my heart was gonna burst, but he screamed back at me that I was crazy and that he wasn't doing anything wrong, that he will never allow anyone to limit him or jail him, and then he left. I couldn't believe this person I've entrusted my life to, that I've been nothing but loyal and dedicated to, would be alright causing me this much distress and pain, just so he could try and prove a point in his life, or just because he wants to party. I am so done. I haven't spoken to him for a week now, and I put all his stuff in the spare bedroom, and the kid and I are now staying in my bedroom. I have gone and went for a job interview, and I guess I'm gearing up to leave my husband because I can't take it anymore. But to be honest, there's a part of me that doesn't want to go. I'm planning on sitting down and talking with him later now that I'm calmer. However, I still don't know if my feelings are valid or if this is something to throw away 11 years of our lives together. I am so uncertain on how I feel, but I do know I feel so hurt and betrayed. What should I do? First off, your feelings are absolutely valid. And secondly, your husband is a piece of garbage. And yeah, he's saying that he's not doing anything with these girls, but you know what? This is how it starts. You go, you get drunk, and then who knows what happens. I mean, he showed up at your doorstep at 4:30 in the morning, completely drunk out of his mind, puking his guts out. He literally goes to these bars because he likes that more than he appreciates the emotional well-being of his wife. And you seriously do not deserve this type of treatment. Him saying that he doesn't want to be limited or jailed or anything like that is the most contradictory statement I've ever heard in my life. Because this guy agreed to marry you. Like literally, he signed up to be jailed. He quite literally signed up to be exclusively with you. That's the point of being married. And if he seriously can't respect your boundaries, and if he really wants to go out to these girls' bars, well then congratulations, you're gonna lose everything else in your life. And I seriously don't blame you either for getting ready to move on. He does not sound like a good husband, and he sounds like an awful person to live with. So hopefully with whatever you decide to do, I hope it all works out for you. Because honestly, your husband is absolutely in the wrong, and you do not deserve to live like that in the slightest. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. My fiance is saying that he no longer is sure if he wants to marry me, and now I feel absolutely devastated and I seriously don't know what to do. to. Here's what happened. So I've been with my partner for about 6 years. He recently proposed, but what I thought would be a happy milestone for our relationship has turned into the worst our relationship has ever been. And now I'm not even sure if we'll get married. Basically, I was in a bad place shortly after the engagement. Lots of anxiety and stress around work, as well as some health matters, and we rarely saw or talked to each other because of a business trip that he went to. To be completely honest, I was being a bit of a jerk, and I was being snappy towards him for the past couple of weeks. After a big fight recently, my fiance told me he was not 100% sure that he should get married to me. He said that he still loved me and had no doubts as to whether he could handle me or not when I get bouts of mental health problems and spiral because of his life, which is already busy and high stress. He also said that he could see the possibility of him cheating on me emotionally if we got married, especially if I continue to be this way, which is negative, grumpy, and snappy. Now, this is the first time he's ever said anything like this to me. In the past 6 years that we've been together, I've never heard this. He has always been so sure of me and us, even from the first year that we started dating. He used to say he was 100% sure I was the one, and now he only says that he hopes so, simply because we've been together for so long. We'd been doing better the last couple of days, and I thought we were back to being semi-normal. But when I brought it up, he told me that he had the same stance and doubts. We also only see each other on the weekends, and he's scheduled to play weekly basketball games on Saturday afternoons, which is fine, but that already eats up the limited time that we have for each other at a time where we're not doing so well. Now it makes me think, is it just me, or is he already distancing himself from me? He also just seems more distant and less sweet. It's awkward because we've become super close to each other's families, and they keep bringing up wedding plans, and I haven't told anyone that we're having problems. Should I try to fight for this relationship? This is probably the biggest fight we've ever had. We've never had any other major problems in the past 6 years. What should I do? I think you two seriously need to talk and work something out between the two of you. I mean, this is a serious commitment, and this is something that both of you have to be on board for. Otherwise, I just see this falling apart at the seams, and it seems like that's already starting to happen. So either talking one-on-one and making the time to seriously work out what's going on, or even just going to like a marriage counselor of some kind who might be able to help you work through what's going on would be a really good thing for you guys right now. Because let's look at the facts. Would you rather have a marriage that you know is secure and steady with someone that you love who absolutely wants to be married with you? Or would you rather be married to someone who very likely would just emotionally cheat on you right after you get married to him? And that's all because you're grumpy and a little snappy. And that's not to say that you can't work on that on your end. Obviously, I think you're aware of how you've been acting, and I think you can make some kind of steps to fixing that in the long run. Obviously, it's not a long-term trait, but it's just something that's recently been going on that obviously you need to fix. And in fact, maybe double back to what he said. He would emotionally cheat on you if you continue to act this way. Like, that's a massive red flag in my opinion. But either way, with whatever you decide to do, some kind of talk and discussion needs to be made. Because in my opinion, if the timing is not right to get married, then you absolutely should not force that. That would be a nightmare to deal with, and I honestly think, in my opinion, that you would make your situation a lot worse by trying to force both of you into a marriage that both of you are clearly not ready for. My husband constantly sleeps through his alarms, and he oversleeps all the time, and at this point, I'm at my wit's end and I seriously don't know what to do. So my husband and I have been together for 3.5 years. Our 1-year anniversary is coming up on April 2nd. My husband is a paramedic, and he does shift work, which can be exhausting. Ever since we started dating, I've had to take on the responsibility of making sure he doesn't sleep through his alarms, so he isn't late for work. He never asked me to do this, but if I don't, he consistently oversleeps and is late. To be clear, I really don't think that this is an irresponsibility thing on his part. It seems like there is something else behind it. He sets an obscenely loud alarm that he has to hold up to a light for him to turn off. That thing, no exaggeration, is as loud as a tornado siren, and I still have to wake him up just to turn it off. He used to have one called a doomsday alarm that his dad could hear from the outside barn of our house, and my husband still slept through it. He does have sleep apnea, and he does wear a CPAP. Every morning, even if I'm off, I set alarms so I can make sure he gets up. But this morning, he turned his phone off after I kept trying to get him up. We both fell back asleep, and he overslept and was late. And while he was trying to leave, he said to me, "That's what I get for turning off my phone." And I responded by saying, "Why on earth did you turn it off? He said to me, because someone was complaining at me about turning it off. At this point, I am so upset and I don't know what to do. I am not his mother and I feel like I shouldn't be responsible for this, but he won't seek treatment for what obviously seems like a sleep disorder. What should I do? Honestly, it sounds like your husband's being super entitled. Like he already has this crazy loud alarm and he doesn't even take the time to get up and get out of bed and do his job. And I think I really do want to disagree with the original poster here. This absolutely is a responsibility problem. He is not being responsible and taking care of the alarm right when it goes off, but instead he's basically relying on you to get him out of bed. And that, in my opinion, is completely unreasonable, especially considering when you have days off, you probably want to sleep in, but he's making your life miserable by basically having a car alarm right next to your head every morning and still not having the common courtesy to get up and turn it off. But in that same vein of thought, there's probably something going on with his sleep patterns, and he probably does have some undiagnosed sleeping disorder. So maybe having some kind of discussion with him and saying, hey, we need to figure this out, and trying to approach this rationally and calmly might do a lot of good. And if that doesn't work, then you can take the petty route of basically saying, okay, I just won't wake you up anymore. Let that alarm ring, take a step out of the bedroom, and go sleep on the couch or something. Anything to make him realize, oh, this is something I need to take care of. And honestly, you have every right to complain about that stupid alarm. It's his responsibility to turn it off because it's something he uses to get up in the morning. So hopefully you can get this figured out, because that sounds absolutely obnoxious, and if I was in your shoes, I would also be miserable and really wanting him to find a solution. Today, I messed up by introducing my boyfriend to an old friend who's notorious for ruining my friendships and tried to steal my boyfriends away from me. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. So, for a bit of context, my old friend, who I will dub Valerie, that's not her real name, had a serious habit of following through my friends list on social media and talking to people that I had previously mentioned in conversation to her. Often it was boys I was interested in or close friends. She would message them and say that I recommended that they be friends. And out of the 6 times that she did this, 4 of them ended up ghosting me. I have no idea what Valerie would say, but I am pretty sure it wasn't true. Also, if you haven't guessed already, Valerie is just kind of an awful person overall. And eventually, I stopped talking to her for obvious reasons back in 2021, after we had been friends for a year already. Now, right around the time I stopped talking to Valerie, I met a very nice boy by the name of Evan. That's also not his real name. He has been so good to me, and I feel so lucky to have him in my life. I opened up to him months ago about how Valerie made me feel, and I told him all the awful things that she did, including but not limited to her stealing away my friends and people I had interest in. He agreed that it was awful and I had every right to be upset. Well, a few months ago, Valerie reached out to tell me that she had changed. I was hesitant, but gave her another chance. We became a lot closer very quickly, and I really did believe that she had changed. I started to tell her about Evan and how happy he had made me. I even opened up about how I sometimes get very jealous when people are flirty with him, despite him being very loyal, and that was a massive mistake. A week later, Valerie asked to befriend Evan, saying that she's heard a lot about him and how she wants to be involved in my life. Valerie had a history of saying or doing things that she knew would tick me off to make it look as though I was getting upset over nothing to the people I liked. It would result to them liking me less, thinking that I am being dramatic. I was wary, but felt bad for holding the past against her, and I introduced them to each other. They got along great, despite Evan previously saying Valerie seemed annoying and he wouldn't like her at all. Within days, she sent a random picture to the group chat of her with her pants down very low. I expected Evan to say something, as he's always been very forward with girls who show interest with him, but he didn't say anything. She then sent a similar picture the next day, and he still didn't say anything. I questioned him about it, and he said it was nothing, and there wasn't any reason for me to be upset. And when he said that, I felt kind of bad, and so I just dropped it. I got a sinking gut feeling that Valerie was doing what she did before, making me look as though I'm getting mad over nothing after I disclosed to her my jealousy. Afterwards, I explained to Evan that I was only upset because it reminded me of how Valerie used to be, how she was making me look bad in front of him on purpose, and it worked. He said he was wrong in thinking it was stupid to be upset about that, and he didn't want to talk to her anymore, knowing what she was doing. Less than a week later, he out of nowhere told me he thinks Valerie is funny. I thought that was a weird thing to say, considering he told me he wasn't speaking to her anymore, and I hadn't seen any new messages in the group chat. I didn't get upset upset with him, but I feel like I did seem pretty dejected. He then told me that it was a stupid reason to be jealous, and we had a small argument. I told him that I felt as if he took nothing I said in terms of how she made me feel into account, and he again told me that he was sorry and it wouldn't happen again. Now, over a month later, he told me again that Valerie is very funny and invited her to play video games with us. I didn't even know they were still in contact. I feel like I'm losing him to her like the rest of the people she talks to, and at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. First off, I want to say that the original poster is incredibly foolish. If they seriously thought they could let Valerie back into their life, and Valerie wouldn't try and ruin it just like they did before. Like, really, what were you thinking? You need to remember why you stopped being friends with this lady in the first place. And the excuse of them saying, oh, I've changed, I'm a different person, probably doesn't hold that much weight, to be completely honest. Like, sure, some people deserve second chances, but malicious people like this absolutely do not. You cut them out and you move on with your life. Because to Valerie, this is a game. This is her way of playing with your emotions and essentially playing with your boyfriend. And honestly, if by the end of this, Valerie steals your boyfriend away from you, then let that be an obvious sign that he was not worth trying to keep in the first place. So I really think you need to have some kind of serious conversation with Evan and say to him that you really do not want this lady back in your life, and make the steps to cut her off once again. You don't have to feel guilty about dropping toxic people, as well as people who just want to create drama in your friend group. In my opinion, you won't regret dropping that lady for good, and the peace you obtain will be so valuable, it will be worth the effort of just saying, hey, we're done. So hopefully you can break through to Evan and help him see what's actually happening, because based on the way things are going, it's not looking good. But hopefully for the sake of your relationship, he sees reason and sees exactly what Valerie's trying to do. I found out that my boyfriend has still been in contact with his ex-girlfriend, and now while he's away on vacation, I'm going to be moving out his belongings into a storage unit, and I'm going to be breaking up with him on the spot. And I'm honestly so stressed out and I don't know what to do. My boyfriend and I have been together for 7 years. He moved across the country 6 years ago to be with me, but it is honestly not working. He was in love with someone else when we first got together. I only found out about it when I found some letters that he had written to her in a notebook that he left out on a table. I was looking for a piece of paper, and instead I found these letters. He is still in contact with her, even though he has promised repeatedly to cut her off. So I need to end it. I cannot trust him. He says he doesn't have feelings for her anymore, but I don't believe him, because he has gone to such great lengths to hide the fact that they are still in contact with one another. The problem is, how do we break it off? We have tried to break up in the past, but he can't just leave the house immediately because he lives across the country. He can't afford a hotel until he's ready to go. So we have a fight, we agree that he should leave, but then we just end up back together because he is still in the house as he tries to arrange a cross-country move. He begs me to not break up with him and to keep trying. We have been through this several times, and I always find out that he is still in touch with her. He is going to see his family in a few weeks, and I am considering moving his stuff out and just telling him to come back for it when he can. As far as I'm concerned, he can come back here with someone to help him move. That way, there's no deciding to try one more time, simply because he is here and crying and asking me to take him back. It is over and done with, and we just can't be with each other anymore. I am so miserable now because of this, and I seriously don't know what to do. Your boyfriend absolutely sucks. The fact that he's still in contact with his ex-girlfriend and is actively sending her messages is unbelievably toxic. Like, that is so uncalled for. So honestly, if I was in your shoes, I would be doing the exact same thing. There is no way I would let that guy back into my home, especially after finding out this information. You deserve so much better than this, and he seriously needs to get out and move on. And I think the plan you've got set up is honestly a good one. Move it out while he's away and put it in storage. And then hopefully you can just move on with your life without him being involved. Because from the sounds of it, he is just stringing you along. And if he really wants to be around his ex-girlfriend so much, then so be it. Let him do it. And who knows, he probably is going across the country just to get with her anyways. So overall, if you do go through with your plan, I think you're going to be a lot happier as a result, because you do not need this kind of energy in your life in the slightest. An entitled Karen demands to cut first into the line to a restaurant, claiming that because she has kids, no one else in the line matters in the slightest, and that she should have priority to get into the restaurant and get out of the rain. And I've never been more offended by somebody's behavior in my life. Here's what happened. So this story happened a few months ago, and it honestly still blows my mind. So my sister and I, both of us being 20 years old, were traveling together to this small touristic town in the southern region of our country. One night we wanted to go to a restaurant, and we didn't didn't know how popular it was, and it was kind of crowded when we arrived, so there was a line to get in. There were maybe 8 people or families in front of us, so we decided to wait anyways because we had some time. It was raining, and the line wasn't exactly inside the restaurant, but it was in a covered area, so it wasn't raining on us or anyone else in the line. Maybe 30 minutes passed by, and there were 2 people in front of us, and maybe 3 or 4 behind, and it was right about then that the entitled couple arrives right in front of us. The husband is holding a toddler, and there's a little boy following behind them. They stop, look at the line, look at each other, and the wife picks up the toddler and immediately goes up to the lady in charge of the line, demanding that she lets them in. The lady asks if they have a reservation, and she says no. She then tries to explain that without a reservation, they can't cut in line for obvious reasons. But this definitely was the wrong thing to say, because this entitled Karen then starts to go off on her. The wife starts to go, "Don't you see I have a baby with me?" And she said this while holding the baby up in front of this lady. Me and my sister were watching all of it, and we saw the husband pushing the little boy so he would stand next to his mother, all for the show. Then she goes on and says, "I have 2 kids with me, so you better let us in. There's no other families with children here. They can certainly wait." The lady very patiently repeats what she had said before, but this doesn't sway this entitled Karen in the slightest. Ignoring everybody else in line, this entitled Karen says, "It is raining on us. My kids are gonna get sick. If my kids get sick, it's gonna be your fault. So you have to get a table for us right now and let us in." Then, almost on cue, she called for her husband, and he started repeating the same things that she was saying, talking about how they have 2 kids with them, it's raining outside, and they don't want their kids to get sick. They also said that they had the right to cut in line because they had kids with them, and that kids should be prioritized over the adults in the line to the restaurant, claiming that his kids were starving and they needed something to eat. This went on for a while, but thankfully and eventually, they both left. And as they were leaving, they were complaining and cursing the lady who was just trying to do her job. Now, I don't blame the kids for the parents' behavior, but it wasn't a nice scene to watch in the slightest, and it definitely was an awful example for them to set. Eventually, we were able to get in and have some food, and it was really good. So truth be told, at least our night wasn't ruined, and at least we didn't have to deal with an entitled Karen cutting in line all because they didn't want to wait. That is honestly super ridiculous. The fact that she would wave her kids around and basically be like, "Whoa, look, children here, I gotta go first." Like, what does this lady think? Is this the Titanic suddenly? Do women and children need to get into the restaurant first before the boat sinks? Like, come on. And the way they walked up, it kind of screams to me that they've done this before. Like, they both knew exactly what to say just to try and guilt trip their way into the head of this line. And that is so inappropriate in my opinion. To parade your children around like that as some kind of bargaining chip, as if there isn't already a dozen people standing in line trying to get into the same restaurant. Like, come on, get over yourself. So thankfully, the person at the front didn't take that and didn't cave to their weird demands. Because at the end of the day, if you choose to be a parent, then that's on you. And the rest of the world does not have to cater to you, especially if you're just going to use those kids to try and get your way. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. My entitled grandmother ruins my graduation party by taking back my laptop she gifted to me before the graduation party, all because I didn't show it off and let people know that she bought me this in the first place. And it was so embarrassing and it ruined the mood. And I'm still upset about it to this day. Here's what happened. So this happened when I was 18 years old. My dream was to go on a Hawaiian vacation. I love the culture, I love the music, and I have a dream of trying to surf. My grandparents had a timeshare there. We live in Minnesota, and my grandmother asked me what I wanted for graduation. So I told her I'd really like to go to Hawaii. They usually went every winter, so she had agreed. Fast forward to January when they usually went, and my grandmother said my back is really bad. I don't think I can handle doing that. And so I was like, okay. She asked, I have this laptop that isn't that old, and with your grandpa and I not traveling anymore, it doesn't get used. What if we gave you the laptop for graduation instead? You can take it now. The only thing I ask is that you put it on the gift table with my name on it, stating that I gave it to you. My grandmother had a very entitled way of demanding attention to herself, by the way. So I disagreed, and I figured it wasn't a big deal for a gift that was essentially a $1,000 laptop. My grandma always bought the best. Well, the graduation party came, and I brought the computer out for Dad to put on the table. But my dad said, "No, son, we don't want someone to knock it off. There will be too many kids and too many people." And I said, "Well, what about Grandma?" He said, "Don't worry, your mom and I will handle it. This is your day." Well, eventually Grandma saw it wasn't up there, so she pulled me away from the guests. She said, "I want to talk to you right now." So I walked away from my company and asked her what was wrong. She promptly got all up in my face, growling and grumbling at how I was so disrespectful and rude, and how I was the most disrespectful grandchild ever. I said, "Hang on, if it means that much to you, I can go get it and set it up." So I quickly went into the house to go and get it. Besides, my dad was the one who said that I shouldn't set it up. As she follows me into the house, I grabbed the laptop, and that's when she said, "It's too late for that. I'm taking it back. You don't deserve this." When she said this, I felt so upset. I promptly ran across the yard. My mom called after me asking what was wrong. I hollered back and I said, "Ask that spiteful woman you call a mom." Shortly after, a cousin came to find me walking in the neighborhood. She convinced me to come on back, and after calming down, I went back to visiting with my guests. During a lull in activity, I went back to see if the laptop was around, and guess what? It was gone. The funny part is that she didn't even take the charger, so it would not have done her much good. I just felt terrible. I came out bawling. Now my grandmother on my dad's side saw her take the laptop out of the house, and she said that she didn't think anything of it. She didn't know about the events prior. Everyone tried to console me. My dad especially was livid. Meanwhile, my grandpa, the entitled grandma's husband, was out in the yard. He was so embarrassed and angry at her, he couldn't even look at me. My mom said, "You need to talk to him," and I demanded to know why. I thought that maybe he was in on it as well. My mom said, "No, son, he's hurt just like you are. He told me he's so embarrassed he can't even look at you. He knows what that laptop meant to you." So I eventually go up to him, and my grandpa said that he was so sorry. He said, "You're getting that back. Either she gives it back or I'll take it myself and get a new one. No cost spared." Everyone else at the party was so nice. My dad's parents even offered to buy me a new one. They were very poor and I knew this, so for them to offer meant a lot to me. Later, my dad and I saw a police car, so we flagged them down and we discussed our options. My grandfather had politely asked to handle this in the family, so my dad told the officer that Grandpa had 1 week to give it back, or we would file theft charges. She did eventually give it back though, but I never did get super close with her ever again. My grandpa was so angry with her. He said that no one has the right to take back a gift like that, especially when she knew what it meant to you. This hit especially hard because I'm a music connoisseur, so I had my entire music library pictures, easily several gigs worth. Now, I know I sound like the entitled one to some people, but I don't make a habit out of asking for expensive things. But regardless, I'm just happy to have the laptop back, especially after spending so much time setting it up and putting so many things on it. It really would have been a shame to lose it forever, all because of my grandma's entitlement. Yeah, that sounds like an absolute mess. So she gives you the computer before the party, and then she only wants you to set it up for people to see, just so they can know that grandma gave you this expensive laptop? I mean, what is that all about? That's so weird. So honestly, overall, I'm glad you got your laptop back. And with all things considered, I definitely don't blame you for not getting close to your grandmother after that. She sounds super entitled, and you seriously don't need that kind of energy in your life. My girlfriend broke up with me all of a sudden, and despite trying to talk to her about it, I'm seriously at a loss and I don't know what to do. So my ex-girlfriend and I live together with our 2 kids and her parents. I bought a home with them, but she isn't on the contract. About 2 months ago, she decided to break it off between us, telling me she doesn't love me anymore, and since then, communication between us has spiraled up, down, and out of control, then to an abrupt and sudden stop. But I'll explain that at the end. When the breakup first happened, we shared the same room and slept in the same bed. She took her side and I took mine, and we did nothing but sleep the opposite way. We would have fallouts from my behavior. I'm telling you, I lost my mind from being in love with this girl, and I began to snoop through her phone and discovered that she was on a dating app, casually talking to other men. I would call her out and tell her to give me more time to grieve instead of jumping right into the dating scene and hurting my feelings time after time again. I even falsely accused her of sending photos to random men. I was not myself, and I felt so ashamed of my behavior. I eventually told her that I deleted her Gmail from my phone, and realistically had no access to anything that she'd do. Her privacy had finally been renewed, but through and through, we talked like casual people throughout the day, mostly about the kids, and several times about issues that she'd have with her parents. I would comfort her, of course. That is, until things changed 3 weeks later. At this point, she had hit up the gym and improved her diet. Once or twice a week, she would party at clubs or go out with her friends to movies. She admitted to me when she traveled close to the mountains late at night with her friends, and she felt the adrenaline rush, but would still have a hole in her heart like something was missing. We would still talk casually, but at moments, I'd make the mistake of admitting I still loved her, and I begged for another chance. And of course, as it would naturally go with no prevail, I would do this for the next 2 weeks on and off, through text messaging and in person, as I drove her to work in the morning, saying things like, "If you could only see things from my perspective, you would change your mind about me. I've changed, yet you don't care." Or I would counter that by saying, "You are the reason the relationship failed," and then immediately regret it and apologize. Yesterday, I tested her by taking out old love letters that she wrote to me and asked her to throw them away because I didn't want them anymore. She responded and told me it was my responsibility and she doesn't care what I do with them. Soon enough, she set up a spare bed in our kids' room and she has been sleeping in there for the past week. The morning commute together is completely silent now, and when she picks me up at night, we don't talk at all. Sometimes throughout the day, she sends me partially aggressive text messages reminding me to keep up with my responsibilities of paying my credit cards so I can move out when my credit improves, and whenever we do interact, she always has an attitude towards me. Her mood has changed a week ago from upbeat to aggressive with me. I've been minding my own business, and I only talk to her when she texts me about important matters. Part of me thinks she found another man, and I'm standing in her path of having to still deal with me being around, like I'm a nuisance to look at. Another part of me wants to believe she's grieving the relationship now, when at first she was too busy to care. Honestly, it's all such a mess, and I seriously don't know what to do. I think the original poster is absolutely out of line. Like seriously, she broke up with you, and she still has to live with you at that. And you very clearly have not gotten over it, so now she can no longer be nice to you, but instead she has to be aggressive and rude just to get you to leave her alone. And I think in my opinion, you should be seeing it from her perspective. She doesn't want to be with you anymore. It really sucks and it really does hurt, but she doesn't want to be with you. That's the facts that are laid out in front of you, and you need to accept it and move forward with your life. That's my opinion at least. I think by bothering her consistently every single day to and from work, talking about how you need another chance and you want to be with her and all this stuff, all while basically blaming her for the relationship, on top of trying to test her, is in and of itself incredibly weird, while also not ensuring that you're ever going to get with her ever again. Because in her eyes, it probably comes off as really creepy and really sad. So please, accept the fact that she is not with you anymore and try and find some kind of way to move forward with your life. Learn how to be there for your children and respect the fact that she chose to walk away from you, whether you like it or not. My boyfriend overreacted, and because of that, he kind of ruined my birthday, and now I don't know what to do. So for a bit of context, a few years ago, I was an exchange student in the United States and I made some friends. One of those friends has come on vacation to my country, nearby where I live, and he told me he would be visiting me on Saturday in the city in case I wanted to hang out and see each other one more time. I said we definitely need to meet up, but I didn't have time that day because it's my birthday and I'd be celebrating with my family. The day before, I found out that my family would be celebrating my birthday in the evening, so I told him I did have time to hang out and that when I get there, I will show him around the city. I told my boyfriend of 2.5 years, whom I have a long distance relationship with and was outside at the moment, that I would spontaneously go to the city the day after to show around this friend, since I just found out that I would have time for that, and my boyfriend said okay. On Saturday, I hung out with this person and it honestly really was a fun time. And then I went home, I celebrated my birthday with my family. I texted my boyfriend in the morning before meeting this person, and I FaceTimed him in the evening. I could tell all along that there was something really wrong with him, but he just kept saying nothing. Over FaceTime, I kept asking him what was wrong. I could tell that something was seriously off, and he even raised his voice at me. When I asked about the meaning of that, he just said that he wanted the questions to stop. By the end of the call, I couldn't take it anymore, and I was just like, why do you keep lying to me? If you keep acting like this to me, but you say nothing's wrong, what should I think? Why do I deserve deserve this treatment, and he finally told me that there was something wrong, but that he couldn't tell me. At that point, I just got really mad because he had been kind of ruining my day and making me really worried with his silent treatment. And I said that I was really annoyed because in the past, he already said he would work on his communication. And not only did he not tell me anything on his own, even when I asked him, he then also kept lying, saying that nothing was wrong, but instead being really dry about it. And I was going crazy. I told him that if he couldn't tell me, he could have told me there was something wrong, but that he needed time to try and tell me, instead of lying to me and making me so confused. It was a really exhausting situation. We just went to sleep, and today he was finally ready to tell me what was wrong. Apparently, he wanted to surprise me doing a FaceTime call in which we would look at presents for me if I wanted anything specific. He said he had been really excited planning that and that he felt worthless because I instead spent my birthday with some guy that I knew in the US. He also said that by the time he woke up, I was already on my way over there and we couldn't do the call even if we wanted to. And when he said this, I said that I understand and I'm sorry that it might have been a bit disappointing, but it's not a reason for him to get this upset, as well as giving me the cold shoulder all day and being dry and not telling me what was wrong. I told him I didn't know that he planned on doing anything like that, and that I did tell him the night before that I would be going into the city with this person, so I don't understand why he's so surprised that I did that. I also said that we can call and celebrate together at any other time, and we even had time in the evening, but instead spent the majority of the FaceTime call fighting and arguing with each other, and just trying to figure out what's going on. I also said that I didn't understand why he didn't just reschedule it for another day. Also, my friend was coming to my city on Saturday, with or without me, so it wasn't a plan that I could just reschedule or anything. I told him too that if anything, it's a good thing that I got to go out and do something fun in my birthday, and he should have been happy for me, but if not happy, at least not mad at me. I do understand that he could be disappointed, but more like, oh well, a bit annoying, but we can reschedule it for any other day, and it's not that big of a deal. I get why he would feel worthless when I didn't even know he wanted to do anything, but we still had time on FaceTime, especially in that evening, and his plan could have worked for any other day too. Even after I said all that, he still didn't understand my point and feels uncomfortable and completely upset. I just made plans on my birthday thinking that I had some free time. How on earth did it get to this? I don't know if this is even normal. I'm so tired of this situation. I just need some other people's insight. What should I do? Honestly, I think the fault is on your boyfriend. If he seriously wanted some special time between the two of you to go over gifts or to have FaceTime or whatever, he should have communicated that and said, hey, this is what I want to do. Like long distance relationships like that, you need to have a lot of communication. It's the only way that trust can really be brought about in a relationship. So I really wouldn't stress too much about this. It sounds like, if anything, that he dropped the ball on trying to get this organized, and I don't think you did anything wrong in the slightest. It is becoming harder and harder for me to see a future with my boyfriend, and at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. So I've been in a relationship with my current partner for about 8 years now, and while I'd love to continue this relationship, it's getting harder and harder to envision a future with him. We're both 28 years old and have yet to move in together or take any next steps in our relationship because he is broke and makes no effort to change his situation. At first, I tried to give him grace because we graduated just before the pandemic, but he has no desire or drive to work more than 10 hours a week at a job that makes $2,000 a month, and that's before taxes. Also, he spends every waking moment of his life playing video games. Seriously, his gaming consoles are on from the moment he wakes up to the moment that he goes to sleep, day after day, week after week. I'm doing good for myself, and I have tried to help him out by offering to put words in with people in my network, as well as to fix his resume, send him open roles, etc. But he finds an excuse and problems with every solution I offer. He'll say that he doesn't work that kind of job, or working full-time sounds like an absolute nightmare, or he'll say, I want to make money other ways. Admittedly, and embarrassingly, he is so broke that whenever we go out, I always have to foot the bill and drive. He also refuses to get his license because he doesn't want the responsibility of driving and doesn't even know how to pump gas. I've tried multiple times to sit down and talk with him about this, just so we can develop a game plan together, but he always gets frustrated and upset whenever the conversation comes up, and he always says that he'll figure it out within the next few months, and then the cycle just repeats. Truthfully, at this point, it's starting to become extremely unattractive attractive, and I'm beginning to feel like staying in this relationship is doing nothing but holding me back. It really sucks. It really does. Because I love him, and outside of this, we have a great relationship. This is all so frustrating, and I seriously don't know what to do. Honestly, I think we need to first understand that the guy in this story is 28 years old. You're telling me at that age you don't have a driver's license? Like, really? And it doesn't sound like there's any kind of limitation that would be preventing you from getting one. It is quite literally out of just pure laziness. He says he doesn't want the responsibility of driving, but what he's really doing, in my opinion, is stating pretty loudly and clearly that he doesn't want to work and he wants to freeload off of you for the rest of his life. Like, this is absolutely unacceptable. There's no reason for him to be sitting around and doing nothing like this and expecting the world to just open up all these opportunities that he's actively not looking for. You've done everything you can too, by the way. You've tried to make good at getting him some kind of references. You've tried to put a good word in to find him a job. You've networked with people that you trust and basically putting your neck and reputation on the line just for your boyfriend to finally get off his butt and work. And still, with all the multitude of opportunities you've placed at his feet, he still pushes it aside and decides to do nothing. And that, in my opinion, is completely inappropriate. So I completely understand where you're coming from. And honestly, you deserve so much better than this. You sound driven and you sound like you know exactly what you want. So it is unfair that you have this kind of dead weight sitting around doing absolutely nothing. Because let's face it, if he wanted to do something, he definitely would. But unfortunately, it looks like he doesn't. So with whatever you decide to do, I really hope you think about yourself first. Because it sounds like your boyfriend absolutely has thought of himself first as well. And I know if I was in your shoes, I would be incredibly frustrated and I would be wanting some kind of positive change. Otherwise, I just don't see this working out. An entitled Karen falsely accuses me and my coworker of stealing her purse, forcing security to hold all of us behind at the restaurant as they searched through security footage to figure out who did it. And the entire time the investigation was underway, this entitled Karen kept taunting us, claiming that we were gonna go to jail and she was gonna sue the restaurant. Here's what happened. So back in 2014, I was a back waiter on a cruise ship in Hawaii. The ship was in port on a northern island, and my front waiter, who we will call Phil, that's not his real name, as well as myself, were working the dinner shift in the main dining hall. It was, for the most part, your typical steady evening, all the way up until two ladies sat in our section. One of the ladies, who is the Karen of the story, obviously had a little bit too much to drink. In fact, she was red in the face and she was drunk and giggling. During the dinner, the two ladies were having a great time. They were smiling, they were laughing, they were enjoying themselves, and they were actually quite pleasant to wait on. The two ladies finished their dinner and left without any incident happening. Phil and I continued working, but about 20 to 30 minutes later, the drunk Karen returns. She walks right up to me and says to me, "My purse is missing." I replied to her by saying, "Well, no one has sat at the table you and your friend were at since you left, so maybe let's go over there and see if you left your purse behind." I started looking around the table, and it's right about then that the drunk Karen starts shouting at me, "Don't you look for my purse there?" Now this startled me as it happened all of a sudden, and after a moment of being a deer caught in the headlights, I go on to ask what she's talking about. I say to her, "Ma'am, this is where you and your friend ate your dinner. If you don't want me to look for your purse here, then where should I be looking?" This entitled Karen then makes an accusation that truly caught me off guard. She said to me, "You and that other waiter took it, and I want it back right now." Now, when she said this, I was stunned, but I promptly responded by saying, "Ma'am, we did not take your purse. Is it possible that you might have left it in your cabin?" But when I said this really upset this entitled Karen, and she snapped back. She said to me, "How dare you ask me such a stupid question? I would know if I left my purse in my cabin. I know you took it, and I want it back right now." With her screaming, anyone and everyone could hear her, and they were now looking at us. Phil rushes over to try and calm her down, while I went to find the restaurant manager. I filled him in on what was going on, and while walking back towards Phil and the drunk Karen, I warned him. I said to him, "Whatever you do not ask her if she left her purse in the cabin." I did, and it only made her angry. The manager thanked me for warning them, but told me he had to ask her that, as this is part of the line of questioning that he had to do in this situation. Sure enough, this entitled Karen got even more angry when he asked her that question. So now we had a full-scale investigation on our hands. Our section had to be closed down. The passengers dining in our area were inconveniently moved to other sections of the restaurant, and the security team had to come in and question all of us. And this drunk entitled Karen got even more angry angry when the security team asked her if she left the purse in her cabin. After the questioning, the security team split up. Some went to look for the entitled Karen's friend for additional questioning, while the rest of them went to look over the security footage. They told us that this will take some time, as there are multiple cameras that overlapped our section, and they had to review not only the dinner, but the 20 to 30 minutes after the dinner, when the entitled Karen and her friend left the restaurant, all the way up to when she returned to see if we had stolen the purse. But they assured her that if we did steal it, they would see it in the footage. So now it's just the restaurant manager, one security guard, this drunk entitled Karen, Phil, and myself waiting around in our empty section for the security team to finish their investigation. The manager and the security officer did a good job of keeping this entitled Karen calm for a while, but she eventually lost her patience and she started to scream. "Why is this taking so long? I know those two stole my purse and I want it back right now. If you delay any longer, I will call the cops and I will have them on board to arrest those two, and I'm gonna sue this cruise liner." Upon hearing this, Phil had had enough and he started yelling back at this entitled Karen. I even pulled him off to the side to try and calm him down, but he just gets upset at me and starts to say, "How can you be so calm right now? That lady is threatening to call the cops and have us arrested. Aren't you in the least bit worried that we're going to be going to jail?" So I told him, why would we be worried? We did not steal her purse. The security team will verify this when they finish looking over the security footage. The purse will be found somewhere and everything will be fine, so we have nothing to worry about. Now, this did little to no good calming Phil down, so I decided to change tactics, and I said to him, think of it this way. We are both still on the clock, and we're getting paid right now to stand around and do nothing while we wait for the security team to finish their investigation. Think of it like we're getting an extra paid break during what would otherwise be a standard busy dinner shift. Well, Phil did not find this amusing, and he yelled back at me and saying, "Why aren't you taking this seriously? We could be going to jail and you're making jokes. Don't you have any pride? Where's your integrity?" So Phil is yelling at me, and this entitled Karen is yelling at all of us. Phil is yelling back at this entitled Karen, and things are getting out of hand. Fortunately, a short while later, the entitled Karen's friend walks back into the restaurant with the missing purse in hand. When asked where she found the purse, well, you probably guessed it by now. It was in this drunk entitled Karen's cabin the whole time. I didn't think that this entitled Karen's face could get any more red from the booze she drank and from how angry she was, but she turned 3 shades of red darker from sheer embarrassment. She snatched the purse from her friend's hand and ran out of the restaurant. The friend tried to apologize on the drunk Karen's behalf, but Phil rejected it, and he started yelling. He said, "That lady came in here, accused us of stealing her purse, threatened to call the cops and have us arrested. Yet when the purse was found, she runs out of here without apologizing to us first? What an absolute jerk." The restaurant manager knew that emotionally, Phil was in no condition to keep working, so he told him to clock out for the rest of the night to calm down, and that he can clock back in the next day once he's done so. The manager apologizes to me and asks if I could do the close down procedure for our section on my own. I had no problem with this, since when I was done, I would be clocking off about an hour earlier than usual. As I was finishing up, the manager calls me into his office and says to me, "I want to thank you for how you handled the situation earlier tonight. You were calm and collected, while Phil was losing his cool. But please don't think I was rewarding Phil by letting him off early for his bad behavior. You acted like the experienced front waiter, while he acted like the immature back waiter. He wasn't in the right mindset to continue working tonight, and I promise in the next week or two, I will find a night to give you off as a reward for how you responded to the situation." The entitled drunk Karen never returned to the main dining hall to apologize in person, but she did write an apology letter, which she had her friend deliver on her behalf. Phil was still incredibly angry and wanted to tear up the letter in a horrible rage. This time though, I managed to calm him down and convinced him to be the bigger man and just accept the letter. It may not be the apology that he wanted, but in the end, we are still receiving an apology. And considering the person we're dealing with, I think that's gonna be the best we're probably gonna get. What an absolute scumbag that entitled Karen was. She held up everybody at that restaurant, she made everybody move from their section, and she she basically threatened the entire restaurant with a lawsuit, as well as getting these 2 waiters arrested. And it was all literally over nothing. That's the worst part about it. I think if I was in that situation, I would have been upset like Phil. Someone's gonna try and have me arrested all because they're too dumb to know where their purse is. Like, no thank you. I'm absolutely gonna be upset, and I'm gonna let this lady know exactly what's up. I mean, that's some truly entitled behavior if you ask me. And the fact that she didn't have the guts to go back and apologize in person, but instead had to write a note and have her friend deliver it, truly shows how much of a jerk this lady was. So thankfully, this lady never came back. Because dealing with someone like this, who's going to make such blatant false accusations against you and your coworker, is something that no one should ever have to deal with. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. My girlfriend refuses to make any kind of compromise when making any kind of plans for a holiday, and things have gotten really weird and I now don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So my girlfriend and I live in the United Kingdom, and we have been together for the past 2 years. Last year, we went on our first holiday abroad together, and it was really fun. Before the holiday, we had different ideas of the type of holiday that we would like. I preferred more city holiday, where we could look around somewhere, but my girlfriend preferred beach holidays, where we would do nothing and just relax. Now, I did not like the idea of this, since I don't see the point of going abroad just to relax. It seems like a waste of money to me when you can do it at home. We compromised slightly and went to a city with a beach, but still spent some time looking around. When we got back, my girlfriend admitted that a city break will be better, and that she's starting to see beach holidays as being boring. Since November, we've been planning our holiday for this summer. The plan was to travel to 3 cities and spend 10 days exploring what the cities have to offer. We picked 1 city each, and then decided on the 3rd one together. We had picked really cheap places so that we could set a low budget, especially since I'm trying to focus on increasing my savings. We were supposed to book everything last weekend, but when it actually came down to it, my girlfriend just said, "No, we're not doing that. I would prefer a relaxing holiday near a beach," and then started looking at beach resorts. I asked her what was going on, since we had this plan for months now, and she just suddenly changed her mind. I told her that decisions like this need to be discussed, and she just didn't respond to anything I said. I pointed out that the trips she was looking at were way too expensive anyways, since I'm not willing to increase my budget for the trip. Anytime I tried to compromise and suggest somewhere else that we might be able to go, she would just immediately say no without even looking at it. She kept showing me places that just look so boring for me, since I don't see the appeal of paying a lot of money to just do nothing for a week. I ended up just stopping looking at places that she would pick altogether, and she asked if I was angry, so I told her the truth. I said, yeah, especially because she let me get excited about this trip that I thought we were both going to be excited and willing to go on, but it's clear to me that she had no intention of going, and now expects me to just be fine with somewhere that she picks. I pointed out it's supposed to be a joint decision, yet she seems to think it should be her picking it. She just walked out and said, "Fine, looks like we're not going then." Later in the night, she said I was being unfair, and she was only trying to find a nice holiday for the both of us. But I mentioned that we had a nice holiday planned, and that we both agreed to it, and now she's just trying to find one for herself, and expecting me to just agree with it when she knows my thoughts on the type of holidays she's suggesting. I said if we actually want to go away, we need to find a compromise, since there's no way I'm spending a week just laying by a pool or on a beach, because honestly, that does not sound fun to me. But it's clear to me that she doesn't actually want to look around anywhere. She does not want a full holiday experience that both of us could enjoy, and she blatantly just said that if we go away, it has got to be a relaxing holiday. This is all honestly so incredibly frustrating, and I seriously don't know what to do. First and foremost, the way your girlfriend is acting is super inappropriate. Like, you already agreed on some kind of compromise between the two of you, and it seemed like you had some kind of mutual understanding between the both of you that this is what we're gonna do. It's gonna be a mix of the city as well as the beach. That way, both of you can get the most out of the experience and still have a good time and hit the expectations that you were wanting to go with. But it seems like in reality, your girlfriend was just straight up lying to you. She had no intentions of going on this holiday, and she was never gonna let that plan go through. And right now, she's making it seem like it's either her way or the highway. And man, is that just unfortunate and so unfair. You had your sights set on some kind of compromise, but she wants it all about her. And I don't blame you for thinking that that kind of vacation is boring. Like, maybe that's just just your preference. There's nothing wrong with that. So personally, I think there has to be some kind of compromise, and I really don't think this is your fault in the slightest. It sounds like your girlfriend's being incredibly selfish, and it's as if she just doesn't care what you think or what you want to do. She just wants to go with the expensive beach resort and have it her way or the highway, and that's not fair. So if I was in your shoes, there's no way I would spend that much money on something that I would not enjoy. There has to be a compromise when it comes to situations like this, and you can't possibly be expected to drop all this cash on something that you definitely already know you do not like. So hopefully some kind of middle ground can be achieved, because your girlfriend is being super selfish, and the way she's acting is honestly really not fair. Entitled customers get angry at our prices all the time, and I'm always left scratching my head, trying to figure out the best way to handle their angry tirades. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. So for some background, I'm a waiter at a small, locally owned business that is very new. I consider our prices to be fair and affordable, but I've had 2 encounters with people furious over the prices. The big issue here is both times I don't know how to respond. My knee-jerk reaction is to offer a discount, but we aren't allowed to give out discounts unless there's something wrong with a meal or if the customer is aggressive and we're trying to hurry them off the premises. My boss said giving out discounts to everyone complaining about prices sets a precedent that we can't afford to make, and that they can see the prices on the menu before ordering. The first time, a gentleman came in and asked me if it was $3.99 for a chili dog with onion, mustard, and a side of fries, with those specifications, and last time he was here, he spent around $8. He handed me the receipt, which listed me as the server, and I literally just looked at it, read it back to him, telling him it's an additional 32 cents for onions. Well, he got mad at me and said that he just won't come here anymore, and then bought something far more expensive, and I just replied by saying, "I'm sorry to hear that, sir." And unfortunately, my boss was not here for this one. Later that day though, after my boss had come in, I had an issue with a couple, and at risk of giving away where I work, I'll just say that the woman ordered our specialty hot dogs that have heavy toppings and comes with 2 hot dogs, which is just under $7. The man bought 2 chili dogs and added mayo and onion. The specialty hot dogs don't come with a side, but the regular both come with a side of fries. When I informed them of this, they said they realized last time they are more than satisfied with 1 side of fries and only wanted 1. Choosing not to utilize a side does not change the price though, and it's something that's pretty explicitly stated on the menu. When they came up to the register, they were very agitated that their total was about $16 and some cents. I politely started breaking down the prices for them when the man interrupted me by saying, "On your menu, it says you get an extra hot dog for $1.50. And I was a little baffled by this because I've worked here for a while now and have never heard of this. I politely told him I didn't believe that was the case, but that I'd ask my boss if anything, who was, by the way, sitting at the bar like a foot away. As I turn to ask, he gets loud with me and says, "You should just check the menu. That's what it says. Check your menu." So I did what he said, and I tried my best to keep my composure. As I informed him, it is $1.50 for a side on the entrees, not an extra hot dog. And of course, this entitled customer starts to huff and puff and yells that he always gets the other hot dog for $1.50, which I know isn't true, as that's literally never been allowed. I finally can't deal with him anymore, and I say that I can't do anything about the prices. I just work here, and my boss is sitting right there if you would like to discuss it with him. Of course, he continues to berate me, throw money at me, and then just leave. In my mind, $16 for 4 hot dogs, toppings, and fries is not bad at all, but that's not what this is about. Is there a better way to handle this? My boss said I didn't do anything wrong and was pretty upset about how they treated me, but I just felt like I could have handled this better if I had any idea of how to even reply to people like this. What should I do? Honestly, I'm kind of surprised that your manager didn't step in. I mean, they were sitting there watching what was going on, sure, but at the end of the day, any kind of disputes like that, in my opinion, really should go to the manager. They should be the one to sort that out and figure out some kind of compromise with the customer, or at least to back you up. I personally cannot stand it when managers just leave you out to dry when they have the authority to get things done. It's not fair in the slightest, and it also loses confidence that you might have in your manager to back you up when conflict goes down. And the fact that they just sat there and watched and didn't say, "Oh, let me help you out," or even be like, "No, that's really our prices," or something, really was incredibly toxic in my opinion, and that is so unfair for you. So honestly, the fault is on your manager, as you didn't do anything wrong, and they really should have stepped in and helped you out the second that guy raised his voice. My husband has been cheating on me with his ex-girlfriend from college, and after catching him in his lies and confronting him about it, he still repeatedly lied to me and went behind my back just to try and see her. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. So the title basically says it all. I caught him lying about why he was flying out of town, and I come to find out it was to see a woman that he dated in college. Throughout our 4-year relationship, including being married for 3, I have caught him talking to her on several different occasions, either on social media or on the phone. In the beginning, she was very unreceptive of his advances, and even told him to stop contacting her if he wasn't going to leave me. Initially, she seemed to keep things fairly platonic, which hurt even more, knowing that he was the one who initiated the conversation. We talked about it, and I told him if he continues his behavior, I am leaving. He promised he would stop and blocked her on everything, and that was 2 years ago. I should also say that he has mentioned being unhappy in the past, and we have even discussed divorce, but as someone who comes from a single-parent household, I am dedicated to this marriage, and I want to make it work. He agreed to try therapy and marriage counseling, and we had been doing all right up until the beginning of this year when he flew out of town on a whim. When I approached him about it, he came clean to me immediately and told me that he has no intention of ending communication with her and is still very much interested in separating. So that pretty much threw therapy right out the window. Last month on Valentine's Day, I found out that the weekend earlier, he had flown her into our city and spent time with her. And that honestly was the last straw. It broke my heart and I ended up moving out of the house. I left my rings on the kitchen table and I have never felt more disrespected in my life. But here's the thing that really has me second guessing everything. Since I've been staying at my friend's house, he has made every attempt to salvage our marriage. He says that he's blocked her on all social media accounts, as well as blocking her number in general on his phone. I want to believe him because I do truly love him, and I don't know if I will ever trust him fully again, or if we will ever get back to how we were before all of this happened. Thankfully, we don't have any children, but we just only bought a house together, and we have a small business that we run. This is all so very confusing, and I seriously don't know what to do. What an awful situation. Your boyfriend has gone from thinking about it to actively doing it, and I think I would have lost my mind as well if I found out that my significant other flew out their ex to spend some time with them. Like, that is absolutely obnoxious, and it's so inappropriate. Not to mention the fact that they found out about this on Valentine's Day. Like, that is absolutely brutal. So honestly, I don't blame you for moving out and staying with a friend, because you said it best. You don't know if you can ever trust him again. And sure, this guy is probably seeing his marriage going up in flames. And honestly, that's his own fault. He did this to the marriage, not you. And while it's great that he's starting to see the error of his ways, I don't think that gives you any obligation to have to entertain anything that he has to say. And how on earth can you trust anything that he's saying? He says that he blocked her on everything, including social media and his phone, but he has also said that in the past and still went behind your back to do all these awful things. It's hard to believe if anything he's saying is true in the slightest, and that's not fair for you at all. You deserve way better than this. But I think the one silver lining here, if you do decide to break up with him and divorce him in general, is the fact that you don't have any children. That is honestly massive. If there were kids in the mix, this would have made things a lot harder. And while this decision is still very hard, hopefully with whatever you decide to do, you think about yourself first, because your husband has absolutely destroyed your confidence in him. And I don't blame you for second guessing his intentions as well as your marriage.
When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist at the top of the description. And if you like Am I the Jerk, make sure to subscribe to Am I the Genius. Everything will be linked down below in the description.